So how have you been? I mean, dumb question, I guess, considering, everything that you've got going on, but
I mean, I've been good. I really can't complain. We've done a lot in the last, I don't know, year. I mean, my husband and I got married September 1st, 2019. We put our house on the market right before COVID hit. We found out we were pregnant in March and then sold our house, moved in with our parents for a couple weeks until our new house was ready. Moved into our new house in September, had the baby in December. So pretty much a lot of it has been going on through COVID.
wow. That's I feel like that's kind of old school, kind of the way that like I feel like, they used to do it back in the day or, 1 to 2 years, you're in the family, it's happening and you're
Yeah, but you know what? We're not getting any younger. So and once you hit 35 in the pregnancy world, you're considered geriatric. So at 38, I'm geriatric.
yeah, this is also a common thread that I've heard from others, just that concern and that push.
Yeah, I
No
mean,
pun intended.
we we started late in life when we got together, so is what it is.
I guess I mean we're jumping all the way ahead, Pam, but is that something that you wanted that you knew you wanted years and years ago?
Yeah, I mean, well, so when I was younger, I always said I never wanted kids. Never. I was like, I'm never having kids. And that I think it was because my mom had a daycare in the house. Like a lot of the kids were teachers' kids. And so they were always at the house on days off. And it was just, it was a lot. And it was junior and senior year of high school. And I was like, I'm never having kids. I said that was the best birth control I could have ever had, high school and college, because they were everywhere. There were like 13 kids at our house at all times, I felt like.
Wow. So you're just totally sick of it.
So yeah, I was done. And then, as I got older, I was like, yes, I'd love to have kids. I want kids. And then here we are with Miss Olivia,
There we
and
are.
she's 2 months old today.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, cheers. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Uh, you know, so the main reason, like right now, we're doing this is because I guess we're I don't know a couple weeks away, but like this episode is going to air on the 18th, which
Okay.
is
Yep.
20th anniversary of
So crazy.
Ray passing away. Yeah, it's nuts. Like
I
I just
can't
kind
believe
of
it's been 20 years.
yeah, I was looking at the calendar. There's all this talk about 2020 and all that, and you kind of forget that this is our 20th anniversary, or this is our 20th year anniversary of
Yeah.
graduation. I was like, oh my God, that means that Ray died this year.
Yeah.
And I
That's
looked
so
at the
crazy.
calendar and I was like, that's next month.
So
Um,
nuts.
so
I
nuts.
cannot believe it's been 20 years. We don't look that old.
Depends. Some days,
Well, earlier today, I would have said differently.
I'm speaking for myself, only for myself, some days. Um, but I wanted to do an episode with you, about your high school days and everything, but also to
Yeah.
talk about Ray because I think that I everything that anyone knows about Ray when I talk about him, comes from really just that perspective of my group of friends and growing up in Ambler and
Right.
Hyde. And you had a very different relationship with Ray.
Oh, for sure.
And it's one that like it's not even one like that I bled into in the same way that like that Ray was friends with Scott and then I became friends with Scott. It's like Ray was
Right.
friends with you and Ray and only Ray was friends with you and the group of friends that like came with you and that crew. And so
Right. And the Sports Authority crew. And you know what?
yeah,
None of them, we were all from different schools except for Ray and Tony and, well, the Antonucci's. But other
right.
than that, it was all, North Penn and Souderton and where else were they? Like everywhere. It was just a group of us that, and you know what? I'm still friends with most of them, which is so crazy. From the time we
Wow.
were 16 until now, it's crazy.
That's funny. I remember when Ray started kind of hanging out, or when Ray started working at Sports Authority and started like hanging out with you guys. And he's like, "Oh yeah, Pam Leisey," and like we knew Tony, of course, and
Right.
was worked there, and but then he's like, "Oh, Pam Leisey." And, it's kind of like I think our automatic of like, oh, that's a different group, dude. Like Pam Lacey, like
Like, what are you
seriously,
doing
like
with her?
yeah, yeah. But it was like a little, to be completely honest, like jealousy in that sense when it's like, oh, and I hope you don't mind me saying, but like, guys were partying a little bit and
A
like,
little bit.
yeah. And so, Ray would come back with these stories of like, these names for drinks and mixing these different concoctions together. And we're like, so,
Yeah, right. And you know what? It's funny because I was like, I'm going to be a bartender. I'm going to be a bartender. And I did. I started doing that at 18. No, right before I turned 21. But I was like, when we would be all together, it was let's make drinks. Let's see what we can come up with. Let's go here and try this.
Yeah. And Ray really, I think, developed like a separate identity, from, the Ambler, or like, as when I kind of referenced like those 6 friends, it was kind of like all stemmed from that, my friendship
Right.
with Ray.
And you guys all lived right near each other. So that's how you guys all became friends, right?
Yeah, Ray and Tony were friends from kind of like Ambler, their
Hmm.
parents, and Ray and I grew up on the same street, and Scott and Ray actually just became friends from school.
Okay.
And yeah, we all, and I think Josh, and I knew Alyssa a little bit, and Suzette Kettner was like, it was like a weird
Hmm.
twist, but like that's how, and then Josh met Alyssa, and that kind of like bonded our group. And
Right. Did Josh and
so,
Alyssa get married?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They did?
Yeah,
That's
they
so
got married
crazy.
years ago. Boy, like they were one of the first friends to get married back when I was like
Wow.
25 or something.
Okay.
2 kids.
Oh, wow. That's great. So great.
Yeah. Who were you? I mean, well, where did you grow up originally?
So, well, originally I didn't move to Bluebell and start in the Wissahickon School District till I was in 4th grade. I lived in
Oh,
Norristown. I went to St. Paul's 1st through 3rd, and then we moved to Bluebell the end of 3rd grade. Now, mind you, at that age, it's devastating to move schools and leave your friends and start fresh. And so, yeah, I moved to Bluebell, started Stony Creek in 4th grade, and here we are today.
was that hard going to a different? I mean, you said it was hard, but like, what was it like trying to get new friends? Do you remember that process
I
of?
mean, I know like when we moved into our neighborhood, which there were a lot of kids in the neighborhood. Katie Boylan, Dustin Canner, Aram Lee, the Bonds, the Rosas, the Forsters. Who else lived in that neighborhood? The Continos, the Pinchottis, the Hopes. Like it was a neighborhood full of kids.
Hmm.
So when we moved, I remember Katie Boylan's mom and her coming up and knocking on our door and giving us like a tray of cookies, welcoming us to the neighborhood. So like, and then at the bus stop, I met Dustin and the rest of the kids in the neighborhood. So it actually worked out perfectly going to Stony Creek because there were so many kids in the neighborhood that all went there, whether they were my grade or younger. But it was nice to be able to like have that initial closeness with just the neighborhood kids before you actually went to school to meet other kids. I don't really remember too much of like our, how else we met other people in school, but I mean, I came to have, a group of friends. It was Andy New, Megan McDougall, Kate Molt. Yeah, Kate was there. Kelly Brook. So we all became Jem Widener. We all became friends in grade school.
And so that was based off of like proximity of where you lived.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I mean, everyone in the neighborhood, we obviously took the bus together and we could walk to each other's houses. But then if we wanted to see the rest of our friends, obviously you had to drive. It wasn't like everything was walking distance, which would have been nice, but it wasn't.
Yeah, but I think like with me, because everything was walking, I was so, even now, like I'm so adverse to like hanging out with people where I have to drive, and like
Yeah.
like I'm just so like if I can't walk there, I don't want to go.
I don't want to go.
Yeah, yeah. But like for you, like you're able to branch out a lot more, and you're not really as close.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't want to say close minded like I was, but like you're able to just branch out into different friendships, not based on anything particular, but
yeah, I mean, we had to drive everywhere, and then once I got my license, I was like, come on, let's go here, there, and everywhere. But
what kind of stuff were you into as a kid?
Like as a little kid or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in high school?
No, like as a little kid.
I mean, the regular girl stuff, Barbies and ponies, and I always wanted a horse, and so I took horseback riding lessons. My parents were like, you're not getting a horse.
That's funny, because I know like Andy New was into horses, is
She
into
was.
horses,
Yeah,
right?
she is. Yes, I believe she still is.
Were you guys horse friends?
No, not like that. No, no horse friends. But we talked about horses, but she was way more into it than I was. I took riding lessons for like a couple years and then that was it.
Were you did you do other sports as a kid?
I did. I mean, when we moved, it was I did recreational like basketball and softball, and then in high school, middle school and high school it was lacrosse, field hockey, and those were my like high school sports.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you got to middle school,
Mm-hmm.
the friends that you had, were you fortunate enough to have any of those from elementary school in your middle school pods?
Yes. Honestly, my mind is like so mom brain. um, but no, I mean, I stayed friends with Kelly and Jen and Kate and Megan, Nicole Westifer, Katie Boylan. I can't remember when I don't think she went to high school, but she was in middle school, I believe. So I stayed friends with her. But it was nice because she lived right down the street. So for sleepovers, it worked out perfectly. Just walk down the street, walk up the street.
So wait, so I used to do sleepovers with like Alex Mader was the big sleepover house,
Mm-hmm.
and like me and Brandon Markraff and Mike Mayo and
Yep.
Ray, we used to all go over to Alex Mader's house and watch wrestling and play Super Nintendo and
Yeah.
same type of sleepovers for you.
No,
Oh,
definitely not. I don't think we ever watched wrestling, played video games. It was more like we talked about boys and we did the Ouija board and played light as a feather, stiff as a board. And what else do we play? I don't know. We'd watch girly movies or scary movies. I remember a time we watched what's the one with the bees in the toilet? Candyman.
oh my God,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah,
God, we
yeah.
watched that at, I think it was Megan McDougal's, and then none of us wanted to go in the bathroom by ourselves. Or like we were up in her bedroom the one time and we were playing the Ouija board and the lights came on, and the little ghost stories that you have, and that was our sleepovers.
That's funny. Um, God, yeah, I haven't thought about sleepovers in a while. That's funny.
I mean, it was my house, the Brooks, the McDougals. It just depended who wanted the kids that night. And my mother would be like, "Be quiet! You're too loud. You're up all night. It's 4 a.m. Go to sleep."
When you mention like that group of friends,
Mm-hmm.
I look at it. I interviewed Kelly Brook,
Mm-hmm.
so a little bit of like insight into like what she was kind of up to. But were you guys? I don't look at you guys as you guys.
These
You
guys.
guys been here too long. I don't look at you guys as like the group that maybe I heard all the rumors about in middle school. I talk about like middle school being really the
Mm-hmm.
start of like feeling like things were so advanced, from a party perspective and
Mm-hmm.
sex and things like that. From your point of view, like where you sat with your friends and your comfortability, when you looked around, did you feel like it was around you was advanced, and did you feel like pressure?
I mean, I don't think I felt pressure in any way. But I mean, now that I look at it, it's like I didn't feel as we were advanced then. But like if I look at kids now, I'm like, wait, you're doing that at this age? I feel like we weren't even thinking of that at this age, but maybe other groups of people were from what I would think. I don't know. But yeah, I'm like, I don't think we were even thinking about like having sex and doing drugs. It was more like, oh, we like this boy, we like that boy, but it wasn't advanced in that sense of like, let's go have sex with them, let's do drugs, that kind of thing. I
Were
don't think
you
that was more until like high school
were you
in my
aware
mind.
of it around? Like, did you?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was around seventh, eighth grade. Like not like I don't want to say too advanced, but in that sense of, 7 minutes in heaven and go play in the closet kind of thing. Spin the bottle when you'd have like the co-ed parties. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think for me I was in that advanced area or pressured to even think about doing it. It was like, oh, he's cute. But honestly, I never dated anyone in middle school or high school that we went to school with. So it wasn't.
Did you date in middle school?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
I was going to ask, like, at that age, like, how do you date out of so in high school, then you dated out of the school district?
Yes. Yes. It
Oh.
was people that I met at Sports Authority.
Oh.
That went to other schools because I was like, I'm not going to date someone that I'm like, honestly, I don't know. I felt in high school, I was like, I feel like I'm going to see you every day, but then I have to talk to you at night after school, and then I have to see you on the weekends. Like, too much. I wanted to be like outside of it, if that
When
makes any kind of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I don't really hear people say it that way. Usually people's answer is like they didn't want their business like out and around, so they dated in different, different schools, not so much that like as you described.
Right.
So when you're date or when you have like the friends that are at Sports Authority,
Yeah.
that's a mixture, and you're dating like people from that group, and you're interacting with other school districts. Is that your first interaction with boys in your friendship, or did you have guy friends
No,
that you
we had
actually hang out with at Wissahickon?
I had guy friends that I hung out with at Wissahick, and it was like Pete Janik, Kevin DeProsperous, Mike Roberts, Craig Havens, Matt Whitman. Like that was like the guy group that like we would hang out with. And then like my house, we'd have parties in high school, and the boys would DJ. So Depot and Matt Whitman and Pete Janik, and I have a picture of Evan DJing in my parents' basement. And I was like, holy moly, flashback. But like we'd have like 20 to 40 people at in my parents' basement every couple weekends, and the boys would DJ and we'd all hang out. Or so that
Wow.
was like our like guy group of friends. And then the girls, when they started dating upperclassmen, they all came to the parties too, like Stilo and um Joe Gillespie, and like that group of guys would be at our parties as well.
When you started, how did that happen that you started having parties?
I have
Being like,
no idea. I think it was more like my parents were like, if you want to go to a party, have it here. So they know where we are, they know what's going on downstairs. There's nothing, if anything, like I remember the guys going out and smoking in the playhouse in the backyard kind of thing. My brother would be like, I want to go. And I'm like, you're too young, because he's 5 years younger than me.
now, people have talked about parties in the past on the show, and they've talked about like kind of like you can't come in. Uh, did
No,
that ever like, first of all, how does the word get out about? In my head, I have an idea, but tell me, like, how does the word get out that you're
I
having
think
a
it was
party?
just I tell the group of people that, are coming, or we want there, you're invited, we're having the party kind of thing.
And
Honestly, I can't,
how many people do you think are in that group, like that you're saying I want to come?
I have no idea.
Like,
Honestly,
are you
I
saying like
mean,
I want to tell I tell 10 of my girlfriends?
yeah, like it was like, I'll tell this group, and if they bring a couple people, then that's fine. But I mean, I don't think it was ever you can't come kind of thing. It was, I don't know. I always felt like I was friends, like with everyone, not like friends, but like I was social with everyone. I really, at least I tried to not be a total dickhead to people. As if I was, I'm sorry, I apologize. But I honestly think, like, my mom always said, she's always like, you had so many like different groups of friends and like different people you were friendly with, that it never seemed like you disliked anyone, you had issues with anyone, at least I tried not to. Anyway, so it was, if you wanted to come, you come.
Um, did that happen? Like, were your parties ever, I don't know, crashed?
No. Mm-mm.
That's good.
At least not that I can remember. I mean, I don't know.
Um, the only person I've heard, like, I think Will, in the episode that is yet to be released, uh,
Will.
Will Laval,
Will Val. Oh, I loved him.
mentioned that when he first came to Wissahickon, you were like one of the parties that he used to go to, and I think even maybe before he came to Wissahickon,
Mhm.
was invited to the parties through Andy New, and that's how he
Yep.
started to meet people from Wissahickon.
Yep. Yep.
I'll
I
just tell
remember that. Oh my god, that's oh wow. It
until
feels
his
like years and years and years ago.
until his episode comes out, I'll just tell everyone the different things that he says in the podcast.
Yes, please do. Oh my god. It's funny cuz I was looking for my senior yearbook, which I cannot find. So I have my junior yearbook, but I was going through bins at my parents the other weekend and I'm finding pictures from like parties. And we had, it was like, there was a picture and it was like, how many people can you put on one couch? And we had this couch in my parents' basement. Now, mind you, it was an old couch. We must have put like 30 people on that couch, like legit. It was like everyone just piled on. And I'm gonna find the picture and I'll show you. It probably wasn't
Was
30 people. It was probably like 15, but still, it's still a lot of people.
I just got like one of those deja vus. Like, did I hear that in the hallways like back in the day? Was that like something I had heard? We're gonna get people on this couch.
Yeah, let's see how many we can fit in the on the couch. It's so funny. It's so funny to think of that. I remember going to Will Laval's house for Halloween and we went trick or treating and watched the Blair Witch Project. And it's just funny to think of like the things you did in high school. And I'm like, it's, you know, it's crazy. I really don't talk to anyone we went to high school with.
Really?
Like, I'm not really friends with anyone. Like Laura Hirschberg, she lives 2 minutes from my house.
Mhm.
She had her baby a week and a half before I did. And
Nothing.
we were close at the end of high school and in college and after that, but I've yet to see her. And it's probably been a couple years.
Well, let me ask you then. Like, is it the same group of friends? It's Megan McDougal. It's Kate Mole. It's Kelly Brook. Is that you're like still in Andy New and Kevin DeProsperous? This is your high school group of friends, like all the people that kind of encompass those
Yeah, and it was
cliques more or less.
Yeah, it was Jamie Rosen and Lauren Levitt, and it was who else was it? Katie Ryan, Laura Byland.
And it's like, what's the nature of the friendships? Is it like going to each other's houses, like more than just them coming to your house? It's you're going to their house.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we were all really close. Ashley Kreider, we were always at her house. But yeah, we were all really close through middle school and high school. And then I guess maybe it's just me that isn't friends with anyone. I know a lot of them are still really good friends, but like I kind of like branched off and like stay with my sports authority friends and my college friends. And then as I got older, once I was 21, I met another group of friends who I'm still friends with today, who were like my best friends. So it's just I think it's weird to me that I'm not friends with or close with anyone I went to high school with. But at the same time, I'm like, it's life. It happens.
I hate the word weird because that's such a negative connotation. I'll say that it's not probable. The odds would be against it that of all the friends that you had, that there's zero that you have a connection with. I guess that's why I'm so curious about, the nature of your friendships in high school.
Yeah, like we were all really close.
Was it ever like one-on-one hangs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It was.
So it's like real full-fledged, like just friendships with multiple people.
Mm-hmm. Like we'll wish each other happy birthday, congratulations kind of thing. But it's not like we go out to dinner, we meet up, we talk, we text. It's honestly, it's not like that. And it's so crazy to think that, like my mom even said, she's like, I can't believe you're not friends with all these people you were friends with in high school. I'm like, I know. The only one that I actually keep in touch with is Allie Contino, but she was a year below us. And she moved and went to Methacton. And she was at my wedding. We've kept in touch this whole time, but like it's not like she lives in Cape May, so I don't see her all the time. I don't really text with her. It's every now and then that we reach out to each other. But she would be the only person I think from high school that was even at our wedding. Now that I think about it. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That is weird.
Mm-hmm. I know. I'm telling you. It's so weird to me.
No, I don't. I was telling someone yesterday, like I'm oddly enough, even though I'm doing this podcast, prior to this, I wasn't very like in contact with Wissahickon people. So it's not like irregular. I think just because you're it seems like you were a very social person. I was very social, but what's funny? Up until like freshman year of high school, I was very quiet.
and like shy, and like I would only really stay with my group of friends. I didn't really branch out. But once high school hit, I don't know, a switch went off and I was like, I'm going to be social. I'm going to be friends and be friends with everyone. I don't care.
So did you consider yourself outgoing in high school?
Yes, I would say I was. But like at the same time, like I don't know if I would fully start up a full conversation with you if I wasn't like if I didn't really know you. But it was I'd say hi to you in the halls. But I was social that way, but I don't know if I'd be like, hey, let's hang out if I really didn't know you kind of thing. If that
That's
makes sense.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's normal for high school, especially,
Yeah.
and life in general. No one hangs out
Right.
with strangers.
Right. Right. I mean, there's some weird ass people out there.
Did you have any teachers that you liked or any classes that you really liked in high school?
Let's see. Let me think. High school, I'd say, I mean, Mr. Curcio, that class was just a nice, fun class. Everyone had a good time in that class. I did like the probability and statistic class with Mr. Brody, right? That was his name, Mr. Brody.
Yeah, props
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah. I loved that class. And I'm not quite sure why. Because mind you, I don't think I do any of that now, but I loved that class.
No one does. No one does any of that stuff except for teachers of prob stat.
Right. Right. But it was just a class that I totally enjoyed and I would take it again if I could. What about you? Who were your teachers that you enjoyed?
Well, what's funny is I had Brody for like a half year or maybe like a semester,
Okay.
or that is a half year, right? Or maybe a marking period when Miss Castor was pregnant,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
and she ended up leaving the end of the year. I had Brody for the rest of the year for calculus, so I did like him.
Okay.
I liked Conahan and chorus at the end of like my senior year. I think we had him. I like
Okay.
chorus in general.
Yeah.
No matter what, it was always kind of like an escape from sitting in the desk and
Yes.
you know I always liked math, so I like Warren Sabia
Hmm.
with algebra was super fun
Was
for
he the one?
me.
Wait, which one was the one that gave the test? Like you go in, you take your 15-minute test, and he'd go outside. Was that
Warren, every like
Warren?
or is like every day you'd had to do like an algebra test to start the day.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and it would
That's.
be
I
like
remember that class.
it'd be like 100, it'd be like a 10 by 10 sheet
Yep. And
of
he'd be like, okay, I'm
algebra.
going outside. You finish this and I'll be back in 10 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, and that got me really good of like figuring it out and writing quick, thinking quick.
Mhm.
I like that. I don't know. It's like for like a I hate saying this because it's not clinical OCD, like that OCD of like filling in all the gaps and
Getting it
like
done.
yeah,
Yep.
getting it done. It's like
Mhm.
this one. I like that. Yeah, I'm sure I know I love Curcio. I did love Curcio.
Yes.
Curcio was
He
such
was
a
a great
creative.
teacher and very like he like as I don't want to say as easy as his class was, it was, but like he pushed you to read, to do things outside of what you normally would do, if,
Yeah,
in a sense.
he really helped spark a lot of creativity in me,
Hmm.
and I I did things in his class that I remember for like the rest of my life.
Right.
Um, and it's just because he had a very unorthodox style of teaching, um, not very crazy, to be
Hmm.
honest. But just the way that he taught, the way that he approached teaching was just so different. His assignments were just slightly different, and
Yep.
the things that came out of that, I remember for the rest of my life.
Hmm. I like Mrs. Lee, Mama Lee, and for
Mrs. Lee,
math.
she was math, right?
Yeah, she was great. She
I
was just
did
a
not
great
have her.
teacher to begin with. I loved her. I don't think I loved her class. I just loved her. She was just wonderful.
Was math
I
your
hated
best
math.
subject?
No, I hated math.
Did you have a subject you think you were best at?
Uh, no, I don't think so. I mean, I enjoyed school. I enjoyed learning. My only, like, I got really good grades. I pushed myself. I wasn't in like high classes. I was just, regular average student. The class I hated was chemistry with Mr. Gottlieb. Like, hated that class. I got a D, and that was the lowest grade I ever got in my whole school career. And I hated his class. Hated.
Wow.
It was rough. I just didn't get it. I didn't get his teaching. I got help and I still couldn't get it. I was like, chemistry is not for me.
How did you get help?
I feel like I did, like, I asked him for help. I asked other, kids in school. I remember giving my chem binder to Pat Novak. For, for why, I don't even remember, but that just like sparks in my head that I gave him my chemistry binder. Whether it actually happened, it might just be me thinking that. I don't know.
Oh, see, I just talked to him like last week. I wish I could have asked him then.
Yeah, I'll message him on Facebook and be like, so did I ever give you my chem binder for some reason? Probably because maybe he had the class after me.
Well, he did talk about like science specifically with Mr. Gottlieb and one other teacher. I can't remember off the top of my head, but science specifically, like really enjoying and taking pride in having like good grades.
Yeah, I mean, I never wanted to get bad grades. I loved school. I loved, it was like I'd come home and after sports, and it was like I did my homework. We'd go on vacation, and we would go on vacation every October. So I'd get all my homework assignments. And let me tell you, that was done the first 2 days before I even started like full vacation mode, because I was like, I want to get it done. I want to be able to like enjoy my time. But at the same time, I didn't want my grades to fall either. So, yeah.
What was your study method? I always had such a really hard time with studying that
I mean, in high school, it wasn't, I feel like it was just note cards and going over my notes and go constantly like repetition. College, I did that and I seemed to bomb my tests in college. Now is what it is.
So,
but
wait, you made note cards in high school?
Oh my God. Yes, I have flashcards for everything.
Like, was it like I'm trying to think of like how our tests were phrased like for different things. So was it like multiple, or was it like vocab words and like and like and like treaties?
It was like dates and things that happened on these dates for certain things.
Yeah, yeah. Like Archduke Ferdinand assassinated. What is the start of
world? Yes. Well, yes, it was crazy. Mostly for like that. But I mean, I would definitely, I'd have my mother quiz me. Like I know we did study groups to like for finals and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I tried to get as best of grades as I could.
Were you you had to be aware, but did you feel competitive at all with your friends, being that all your friends, were got pretty good grades? And
no, I just didn't know. I mean, I wouldn't say I was competitive with grades for any of the years in school. I just wanted, for myself, I just wanted to have, I didn't want to repeat. I didn't want to have to go back and, if I didn't understand, I always asked for help. I'd always ask the teachers for help, ask for extra credit, things like that. So I was always trying to like push myself.
You asked for extra credit?
Like if I could get extra credit, like do something for extra credit, of course.
Why would you want to do this? So Paige Miller talked about liking school, and Kim Plauder liked school. Like you liked school.
I like school. I enjoyed school. Why? I like learning. I don't know. I mean,
but to this day,
I still like to learn things and like learn new things and do new things. So I guess it kind of just rolls with life.
That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't dislike school at all. I wouldn't go back and redo it again, but at the same time, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning, and I really didn't dislike school. It wasn't like a fight to get out of bed to go to school in the morning.
Speaking of that,
yes.
I'm always curious when I get to talk to girls about like the preparation of going to school in the morning, what that encompasses, how early in the morning you had to wake up for the 7:45
I wasn't that girl.
Time.
I was not that girl at all. No. And to this day, like I can get ready in 5 minutes and I don't care. I'd shower the night before because I played sports. So I'd come home and shower the night before. So I'm not going to get up, shower, and I never, like, even to this day, I don't really wear makeup. So it wasn't like, I'm like, who am I getting dressed up to see? Like it wasn't like a competition with friends to, who's dressing up, who's doing this. It was just, I'm rolling out of bed, putting my hair up, and off to school I go.
And your boyfriend's not in the school, so.
Right. Who cares?
Um, for sports, so you played lacrosse, field hockey. So was that all 4 years?
Um, Field hockey was all 4 years, and in middle school, lacrosse. I think I did lacrosse freshman and sophomore year, if I remember correctly.
So
Um,
were you there for the big, what's now been talked about a couple times with Chrissy and with Leisey for the big party where a bunch of teammates were kicked off the team for the house party?
I honestly don't remember that. So then maybe I
Wow.
only played freshman year.
What was your experience in sports with
I
field hockey
mean,
and lacrosse?
I loved it. I love playing sports. Field hockey was like my thing. I hated preseason. I think that's why to this day I hate running. Like I will never be a runner. I don't know why I picked sports where I was going to have to run, but like the preseason where you had to make the team, you had to do a 7-minute mile. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? Like I wasn't like teeny tiny. I wasn't super athletic. I was athletic, but it was just like, I'm like, how am I going to do this? And then, the 2-mile trail runs and the wall sits and all the preseason stuff that led up to that. And then you're starting your season and you're running. And I'm like, I hate running. And I have friends that are like, you want to go for a run? And I'm like, no, I hate it. And I think that's why. I think I hate running because of sports in high school.
You just wanted to get in there and play.
I just wanted to play. I didn't want to go
Yeah.
on trail runs and run miles.
Yeah. That's
No.
ridiculous. I used to see, I never saw like obviously like the girl sports so much, but like wrestling, I used to see guys like running with guys on their back and all that. And that was the thing that always mostly scared me away from like any type of sports in school was
You didn't do any sports in school, did you?
none.
No.
I did musicals
Okay.
and to be fair to myself, sports were highly looked down upon in like musicals. Mrs. Reckner hated when, especially the guys, because there were so few of us, hated when guys would be gone for sports in the
I
spring.
believe that it's either, I mean, I guess it needed to be one or the other.
Yeah, so I mean, I use that as my excuse, but I didn't do fall or winter either. So
And I took dance, like I took tap and ballet outside of school, obviously, because they didn't have it there. Um, up until I was 16, I think it was. And then it was either sports or dance. I couldn't do both. There was no way. So I chose sports over dance. And now, mind you, I took dance lessons from the time I was 3 years old.
did you like it, or was it like
Oh, I loved it. I wanted to be like in the Nutcracker. I thought I was going to be like prima ballerina. And I'm like, yeah, there's no way. Looking at it now, I was like, what was I thinking? But then I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to be in the Nutcracker. I want to be in a ballet. And then I got to high school and I was like, I want to play sports. Dance is out the window.
Did you go to a lot of like theater type stuff when you were a kid, or ballet
Ballets,
shows when you
yes.
were
I
a
would
kid?
go. I mean, my grandma would take me to the ballet frequently. We would go definitely every year to see the Nutcracker. So that was where it all stemmed from. But my mom put me in dance when I was little and I just went with it the whole time. I enjoyed it. I loved it.
Did you how like extensive up to your 16, but how extensive like was your dance stuff, or was it always like was it ballet centric?
It was ballet and tap. Those were the two. I
Okay.
never like ventured out to jazz and hip hop and whatever other classes they had. It was mostly just strictly ballet and tap.
So I wanted to ask, like, did you have interest in doing like theater, like did the dance or anything like that?
No, I was never really big on that. I think it was more because I didn't want to have to like memorize lines. Like I could do a dance, but I couldn't do both. Like it just wasn't going to work that way.
They had like well, because they had like you wouldn't know this because you didn't get to do it, but like they would have like just straight dance core
Mhm.
that would come out for like the numbers and just do dances, and so that's why I was
Right.
curious if
Now,
that
did
was
you
anything.
do theater through high school, all through high school?
Up until I quit senior year.
Why'd you
Uh,
quit?
so it, I will say this since this is the episode. Uh, the majority of it was because I was really unhappy with the audition process, and I
Mhm.
talked about it in a conversation with Kim Clauder because we were both in the same boat where we were
Okay.
just really unhappy with the audition process that Mrs. Reckner put us through. And when the list came out, we both lost out on parts that we really wanted. And I felt that with it being my senior year,
Mhm.
I didn't want to commit the time I knew you had to commit to doing the musical. I didn't want to commit my senior year to that with a part that I didn't want to do.
That makes sense.
And the other part of that, which I don't think I've ever really talked about, is that Ray had just died.
Yeah. Well, I understand that completely.
So Ray died February 18th,
Mhm.
which was a Sunday.
Sunday.
And we must have been, we were back in school for a month and
Mhm.
change.
Yep.
And we had just gone through auditions for
Okay.
My Fair Lady. And I guess I'd already gone through auditions. I'd already gotten the part
Mhm.
before Ray had passed. And we were out that whole week when Ray died. We didn't go to
Yep.
school for the entire week. And I remember, um, like after Ray's funeral, like talking to her about still needing some time and some things that I just needed time before I was like just doing 3 to 4 hour rehearsals after school every day. I just
Yep.
wasn't in that space.
I
Um,
understand. I was the same way, so I get it. I totally understand.
and I just ended up like I just quit. And I quit because of the reason I said, the former. And then,
Mhm.
the app just missing the time and not really ready to get back into it. I was just like not
You weren't
I
in a good headspace to do it.
yeah, wasn't into doing it.
Mhm.
So I quit them. But lucky for me, that's when I really sunk into TV lab
Okay.
and got into communications for college. So
Mhm.
it
So it
worked
worked out
out.
in the end.
Yeah, yeah, it really worked out.
Everything happened for a reason.
For you, when Ray died, what was your I talked about like not being ready to jump into that, but you're like
Mhm.
engaged in sports. Um
Mhm.
for
Well,
you,
it was winter, so I wasn't doing any sports at that point.
okay.
So, and at the time, I wasn't doing a spring sport either. So I was working, and it was very hard to go back to work. Very hard to go back. Like, it took me, I don't think I went back to work for like a couple weeks after that. Like, I'd go in, but I didn't work. Like, I'd go in to visit, but I wasn't working. I was like, I need time off. I can't be in this store. I can't be around it.
Yeah.
It was rough. And you know what? It's funny because Bye Bye Baby is now where Sports 30 used to be in Montgomeryville. And we
Mhm.
were just in the store the other day, and I was like, oh my God, this is where everything like happened. Like, this is where a lot of my friendships started. This is where Ray passed. Like, it was kind of surreal going in there at the same time being like, this is where everything, like, it just all comes back together at some point. It's weird.
Yeah. Let me be transparent for people that are listening because
Mhm.
it does surprise me sometimes that when you live it, you don't know how much people don't know.
Right. It's
And
true.
it's often that we'll talk about sometimes people go like, what exactly happened? So let me just like for people that are listening or watching, like explain, so Ray, who if you listen to the show, you know exactly what we're talking about. I won't go
Mhm.
into that detail, but um, when Ray died, Ray worked at Sports Authority with Pam. Ray, it was like kind of like a newish job at the time. Ray had always done kind of like manual labor type stuff.
Mhm.
And then Ray got like this new job, which you and Tony Antonucci both worked at. Like you said,
Mhm.
we're the only Wissahickon people.
Yep.
And so kind of like was kind of into that culture, we'll call it, with like a whole new group of friends. And
Mhm.
that's actually where Ray died was at Sports Authority at work,
Yep.
falling from a shelf while on shift.
Mhm.
And then you work there. This is when we're
Mhm.
talking about you dating and having friends outside of the district. This all stems from and Ray having like this new group of friends to
Right.
party with and hang out with that we were kind of looking at like, oh man, this is like kind of
Mhm. Mhm.
we're like a little jealous. This is like a whole new world of cool that we're not in at all. So like this all stems around sports story. So just to catch everyone up on like where you were at that point. So now where
Mhm.
you're talking like, this is where Ray had passed at Sports Authority and you work there and
Yep.
all of your connections, so many of your
Mhm.
connections are through there. Um, so
Mhm.
yeah, I guess like how do you first of all, let me just ask you about the crew at
Hmm.
Sports Authority. You know, when you start working there, when did you start there, and what's that
I
like? Because
started there.
I worked in retail also, right? So like
Hmm.
I'm always so interested just in that aspect of it.
So okay. The way it started was I got a car for my 16th birthday. It was a used 93 Grand Am. And my father said, "We'll get you a car, but you have to pay for your insurance and your gas." Okay, fine. So I worked at Windstorm Park, I babysat, and then my dad's like, "Oh, I found you a job at Sports Authority. Here's like the application, go sign up." So I was like, "Okay, I'll go sign up." Got an interview. I remember going in for my interview. And then I remember them doing a drug test where they like cut the back of your hair. And I was like, what are they cutting my hair for? I was like, I don't do drugs. I knew nothing about any of this. So I just remember my interview, and I started when I was 16, and I honestly was there up until God, 12 until 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I worked with Sports Authority that long.
Wow. So what's that, like 2008?
Yeah, give or take.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was there a while.
So you know, you've got this group of friends that some are older than you, right? That's kind of like the
Hmm.
showing you some of the
Yeah.
ropes.
Actually, Ref and Jimmy Antonucci were like my bosses in the apparel area. That's where I started. And
Which are Tony's brothers.
yeah, Tony's brother and sister-in-law. Yes. And they were like, they were the first people I met. And then I met my friend Adam and the Gormleys. And then it was just like, it snowballed because it had turnover. So people would come and go, and you make friends with everyone because you're there. I mean, I would work nights after school and weekends. It was mostly weekends because I didn't do sports on weekends. And then the nights that I did work was off season with sports. So I was there. That was like my life. And I remember meeting Ray, and I was like, we go to high school together. And it was just like we would go to lunch together and go on our breaks, and we, sit in the car before we'd have to go back into work and just like bullshit about for the last 20 minutes of our time on our break, and talk about everything and anything, girls, guys, life, his family, my family. He loved his sister. I love her. I miss her. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw her. But yeah, it was just like we just had this friendship that was like it was like we'd known each other forever, and we could talk about anything and everything with each other. And there was no filter. He was real. I was real. It was never like a surface level friendship. It was like we just talked about everything and never had an issue talking about anything with each other, which was nice. It was nice to have. It's nice to have those. I think if he were still here, him and I would still be friends. I'm not gonna lie. I think about that all the time. I'm like, we would still be friends because I feel like it was like our Sports 30 crew that like we're all still so close.
I was gonna say, like, you don't. You say you do like the friendships like on the Facebook level. Like he would
Mm-hmm.
definitely not have Facebook. So if you were
No.
friends with him, you would have to do it through like text. He would probably be
Yeah.
a texter.
Oh yeah. I can't
Or
see him being on Facebook.
no,
I can't see him being a social media person.
not at all. He would hate it.
Oh my God. Yeah. But I mean, he was so protective of Kim, so protective. And I was like, I get it. Like, it's your younger sister. Of course you're going to be protective of her.
Yeah, it's funny. Kim refers to herself as the sister that I never wanted. And so growing up with Kim as the sister I never wanted, like just at Ray's house all the time.
Yeah.
And Kim would I would just like drive Kim nuts and always pick on Kim, and like Ray's mom would always yell at me. Yeah. So like I now to this day now still have a really close relationship with Kim, and
That's good.
yeah.
It's good that you're still close with them.
Well, it's unique in that my mom and his mom are best friends.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
I didn't
So
know that.
Yeah, so Ray and I grew up, down the street from each other, and
Mhm.
so since we were 5,
You were
they've
friends.
yeah, we've been friends, and his mom and my mom were, like, troop leaders together.
Okay.
Our dads did baseball stuff,
Mhm.
our dads drank beer together,
Okay.
all that's you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, so
we would
you were destined to be best friends.
my mom and his mom would swap me and Kim for dinner at the house often. So,
That's
and
so funny.
yeah, and I talk about I talked about it I think with Lizzie Black, but I took it out and I might put it up with this episode, but um, like Ray, I was friends with Ray, and Ray lived like on this side of the street, and
Mhm.
Mike Mayall lived much closer to me. I don't know if you remember Mike.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Mike lived like in the middle of me and Ray.
Okay.
But Ray was not really friendly. Did no, it wasn't not friendly. Was friendly, but didn't hang out like on this in the neighborhood as much
Okay.
as like I did or even Mike Mayo. So it was always such a
Okay.
different friendship, especially once my parents got divorced. My dad and Mike Mayo's dad were best friends,
Oh,
and my mom and Ray's mom were
Ray's
best
mom.
friends. So when my
Mhm.
parents got divorced, the sides got
Line.
split, right? And as things soured with my dad, with my relationship with my dad, so did my relationship with Mike Mayo. But my mom and Ray's mom were always to this day best friends. So
Mhm.
to this, even when I didn't have a relationship with my dad, I would still be down the street at Ray's house
Right.
all the time. And so I always kept this relationship with Ray, which is,
Mhm.
like why I was, I don't, who knows, had it gone another way and like I still had that friendship with Mike, and didn't have that relationship with Ray, what might
Right.
have, how that would have turned out for me. But like that's how things went. And so I've always had the Campions in my life because
Mhm.
holidays, whatever, all these things that were always
You were
built
always
into our
together.
always together.
Yeah, that's not a
Yeah.
bad thing. I mean, you gotta love those family friends, and luckily they live right down the street from you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
And
actually, I have a tattoo for Ray. I got a tattoo my freshman year of college, and the night before his funeral, so the night of the viewing, we were all at Ralph and Tina's apartment. Ralph Antonucci. We were at their apartment, and we were all outside, and we saw a shooting star, and we were like, "That's Ray." So I got that following year when I was in college. I got on right around his anniversary. I got the tattoo. Hmm. So
wow.
I have a
So
shooting star on my back.
a lot of people got
Hmm.
tattoos after I won't say a lot, but like a good amount of people got tattoos after Ray died.
Hmm.
I've always been afraid of tattoos, so I was just never able
Really?
to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask you, like, being that young, as
Hmm.
far as like, was that like the first death like that you had
Yes. I mean, it
experienced?
wasn't a family member. That wasn't anyone like super close. Yeah. I mean, it was devastating. I mean, especially being, you have to go back to I don't want to say it'd be different if it was like it was someone in high school, but it like we were close, we were friends, we worked together, and having to go back to work after that and go to class and like not see him in the halls and not be able to like talk to him probably almost every week. I mean, it was weird because in school, it was like, "Hey, how are you?" in passing. Like we weren't like super chummy in school, but then once we got to work, it was like a totally different scenario. Like we were because like we had our separate groups of friends at school, and we didn't really have class together. So it was just in passing, "Hey, what's going on? How are you?" kind of thing. But once we got to work, it was a totally different friendship, and we were able to talk more openly and freely, and we had time to talk and we had time to catch up and like, how was your week, how was things like that. So it wasn't a friendship in high school, but it was a friendship through work, which I'm glad we had that friendship because I don't think we would have if we had not worked together.
Yeah, were you like aware of? You say you were friends with everyone, and to be honest, everyone says that now, right?
Yeah.
And I think I understand the way that you phrased it in that, like you just like anyone who wanted to come along, like whatever.
Right.
So, but were you like aware of like kind of the cliques or
Oh yeah,
anything
for
like that? And
sure.
especially because it was for like when I mentioned us, when it was like, oh, you're hanging with Pam, like it was such a different group.
Right.
So did you, I don't know, do you remember like feelings of that, of like, oh, it is like a different group, but you know what I mean? Like if it,
It is. I mean, it was definitely a different group, but like it was it wasn't a high school friends group. It was, it was the work group. And that's just the way I thought of it, was my work friends. And then I had my high school friends, and they never really intermingled all that much. It was work and school was school.
yeah, when you get into like, when you get into high school again, like, are you thinking about that? Like, how come we don't really talk in the hallways, or do you
I
not?
don't know. I don't think so. I mean, maybe, but at this right now, I can't even think that I thought that way. Maybe I did.
It's the movie in me, where I think of
Mhm.
like, the guy and the girl who work together, and the guy is like, introspective, or, like
Right.
opens up, and then like in the hallways, it's like, I don't talk to you. Get out, like, and not that that
No,
was
it
the
was
verbiage
just
or anything, but like, the girl wondering like, why aren't we cool in school,
in
or
school,
even,
right?
but it's funny because you didn't. It doesn't sound like you. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you weren't looking to integrate the two in any way, because almost like
Um,
Tony and Ray being from Wissahickon and in your sports authority group is complete happenstance and really has nothing to do with the other. The rest are out of the district and it's a different world.
yeah, I mean, it was just, and also like when I'm trying to think, like I, I don't know. I feel like it was just considered like my work group of friends, and I don't remember having classes with either one, with Ray or Tony. And I just don't remember, like, I don't even think we had lunch together. I know Ray was at my 18th birthday party. I remember that. I know he was there, and we had it at the Ambler Firehouse. And I know he was there for that. So like that, he was at parties that we had that, was strictly just high school. And I think there were some sports authority people at that party, if I remember correctly, but I feel like it was so long ago. I'm like, where are my memories? Like, I can't remember.
No, you're doing well, actually.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think it worked out to be that way just because we all meshed through work. And when we were all together, we were all together. And when I was with like my high school friends, I was with just the high school friends. It was very rare that they intermingled much, honestly.
Now I have like a lot of different groups of friends, and I love when those groups intermingle. That was one of the joys of the Italian
Mhm.
festival, where I'd always run into you.
Yes.
When on the I usually would run into you on the Sunday, but
Hmm.
on the Saturday is when like just random people from different groups would like end up here at my place.
Hmm.
And I always love mixing those groups.
Oh
In
yeah.
high school, I only had really one group, but for you, like more, I mean, you say that you kept them like kind of separate. Were you like aware of like,
I honestly don't think I was aware of keeping them separate. It was more like, we're doing this, and it was like this group of friends at school, and that was what we stayed with. I don't know. I mean, now that I think about it, I we should have all been together, but I honestly don't even I can't even remember why it was so separate.
between sports,
Hmm.
your girlfriends and sports authority friends, how do you fit all that in together?
I have no idea. Honestly, you know what's funny? Now, like before COVID, I because I have so many different groups of friends, and we do intermingle at certain events and birthdays and holidays and things like that. We definitely all intermingle, but my weekends were always booked up until COVID hit, honestly. And we had something, my husband and I had something going on every weekend: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And it was like we never had downtime. And that's kind of how it was in high school, because it was sports were during the week, working, and then we'd go out afterwards after work, or I'd meet up with friends from high school. And it was just, honestly, it was every weekend was pretty much busy.
Yeah.
I don't think I stopped, and I blame this on my grandmother. Legit, no, legit. She is how old's my me mom? She's 86. I think she's 86.
Wow.
And she or 87. I could be totally wrong. Um but she has more of a social life than I do. And she was always like, be friends with everyone, be social with everyone, don't be mean to people. And my mother was, always said the same thing, obviously, but I claim my social life because of her, because she's more social than I am. And I'm like, you did this to me. This is your fault that I'm so busy and I don't have time. And it was either with family, friends, work, it was just sports. I was always doing something.
What kind of stuff, like outside of sports and work, what kind of things were you into? Were you like any movies or bands, music?
Oh, music. I mean, we went to tons of concerts.
Oh, oh,
Tons of concerts. And yes, I
oh,
heard Kelly's concert story. I remember that.
oh, oh. So another great little tidbit from the unaired Will of Al
Yes, please tell me.
podcast is that he actually names you as like queen of the Dave Matthews Band concerts.
It's a true story.
Yeah.
It's a true story. It's true. We went to so many concerts, and my father was our driver for the most part. He would drive us, and it started with the boy bands. It started with like Jen Shim, and I loved NSYNC. So we went to as many NSYNC concerts as we could.
Mhm.
And then it was 98 Degrees. And I remember going to, what's the one? The Electric Factory? The one
Yeah.
where there's standing room only?
Yeah.
Electric Factory for 98 Degrees. And I know Andy New was there. And honestly, maybe Jen. I can't remember who else came with us. But I just remember like pushing our way all the way to the very front of the stage. And I have pictures of them like right here. And I was like, oh my God. And we went to, like I said, we went to NSYNC, we went to Backstreet Boys. I didn't have a favorite like boy band. I just wanted to go to concerts. And you know what? To this day, I still go to concerts. The one summer I went to like 19 concerts in 3 months.
You know what? I can buy it because seeing you every year at the Italian festival, pretty much. That's the vibe that I just love. Outdoor and music is a
Yep.
huge part of those street festivals.
Yep.
So I
Love
can
it all.
buy that. Yeah, I still go to shows like that too.
Yeah, oh my God, when I was listening to Kelly's podcast with you about Richie in the backseat of my dad's car, I was like, I remember that vividly. Oh my God. Oh my
So
God.
so was Dave Matthews Band like your? Did you have a favorite band?
I didn't. I
Okay.
didn't. I just liked, we went to, I remember senior year, we all went to U2, and we went to the U2 concert. We went to Dave concerts. We went to boy bands. We went to the Q102 concerts, whatever the summer ones, whatever they were in Camden. We went, what was it? The Y100 festival, the one
Yes,
that
the
they always
full or
carried.
whatever.
Yeah. In the summer, we went to that. It was just, I just wanted to be out and about with music. I loved it. I didn't care. I just wanted to go.
Why Dave Matthews Band though? Why didn't you say ew?
I don't know. I just always liked his music. I did. It was,
Well, let me ask you: was it what was like the atmosphere for you? For like was it like was there a tailgate aspect of going to concerts? Was it the
yeah.
group of friends that you had? Was it the social aspect of like? It sounds like I know for especially for Dave, tons of people like Mondays people will come back to you these stories. Obviously, this is why it's such a joke to me is because I would hear these stories of the Dave. Was it the social aspect of like this is where everyone was at? What was it about like
I
Dave
think it was,
specific? And I ask you that seriously.
I'm trying, honestly, like, I, I think it was a mixture of everything. I enjoyed his music. It was very like, it wasn't the wild, crazy girls that you would see at a boy band concert where they're like screaming their heads off. They're nuts. I mean, I was one of them. So I totally get it. But at the same time, I think it was just like a relaxed atmosphere. The music was good. Everyone just had a good time. It wasn't it wasn't stressful. It was just chill. Like everyone just went and had a blast, and there was no like drama involved. And you go to a boy band concert and the girls are, fighting to get up front and who's pushing who. And I remember Jen and I went to a Britney Spears before she was famous, and NSYNC. She opened for NSYNC at what's the one in Upper Darby? Upper Darby?
Tower Theater.
Yeah. It had like movie theater seats.
Yeah, the Tower.
Yeah, there. We went to that
69th
concert.
and Ludlow.
Yes. My father, God love him, he would take us everywhere. He'd pile all the girls in his Durango or in the van and take us to the concert. He'd either wait for us down there or he'd drive home and come pick us up.
Wow.
And I just remember going to so many concerts. I worked to go to concerts, honestly, and pay for my gas and insurance.
That sounds like the busiest, like, it's funny because that's kind of like the life that prior to COVID that I kind of like was living now of like, I love having parties.
Yep.
I love having different groups of friends to float around and have great times with. I like going to concerts with tons of different people. Like I like staying busy with just lots of different people doing different things.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
110%. I'm surprised we didn't go to concerts together.
I didn't do that then. I didn't do that then. No, I wanted to. I definitely wanted to. I think I had a fear. My parents, I don't know if no one sees their parents as cool. Right. So I didn't like go to concert. Like I didn't know how to actually do that, how to go to a concert with your parents. Ray and I that was never a thing that we did together as friends, was like go to concerts. I'm trying to think about Ray going to concerts. And I know like he was huge into like Bon Jovi, but like when he got into rap, I don't remember him going to a rap show or anything.
I don't remember that, at least for, the small amount of time we were friends. I don't remember him. No.
Yeah. Like maybe like the closest thing I can remember of us ever were going to a show is I think when we were kids, we were both supposed to go to the Ninja Turtles concert.
And I love it.
And Ray went, and I think there was a big snowstorm, and my grandfather was supposed to take me, and he was like, "We're not going." And I think Ray went, and that's like as close as we went. Like movie stuff like that, we would go to and stuff, but like going to concerts. So I just didn't have friends. But wrestling was like but it was another thing that my parents wouldn't take me to. And so like Ray was like the friend that like liked wrestling with me because I made him. Ray would like be into anything that I was into. Ray was he's the reason why to this day, any friend of mine that listens to this, if I force you into liking it, it's because
of Ray.
Ray let me force him into stuff. I can remember like being suspended from school or being not suspended, but being grounded from at home and not being allowed to watch TV. And like Ray updating me on episodes of 90210. Like
was my favorite.
Like, tell me what Valerie did. He's like, oh, dude, so Valerie is cheating, is like has Ray cheating on her, or cheating on Donna with her. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, and like he would tell me this as we're walking to the bus stop and stuff. So like I could force Ray and stuff, and that would be wrestling. So my first wrestling show was with Ray, and Danielle Pitcher's dad took us because none of our parents wanted to take us to wrestling.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so Danielle Pitcher's dad took us to wrestling at the Twin Rinks in Warwick, PA, for an ECW show, which is like a smaller wrestling company.
Yeah. My dad and my brother. I mean, I used to watch wrestling with my father when I think that was, all right. So, when I was, I don't know, 2 or maybe younger, my first words were Nikolai Volkov, and my father, legit, you can ask my parents, they will vouch for this. My dad said he turned and did like a double take. Like, did that just come out of her mouth? Legit. So I used to watch wrestling with my dad. Wow, my brother's 5 years younger than me. So my father was into sports and wrestling. So growing up, that's what that's why I love sports and I was into wrestling, because I would watch it with him. And then my brother came along and he was into it. I remember going to a show with, I believe, I think it was just me and Dustin Canner and my dad and my brother. I think it was that we went to to a WWF show down in the city. And I was like, yeah, I'm a girl. I like wrestling. I don't care.
Wow. Was
It
this like
was
high school?
probably, no, this was like
Middle
grade school. I
school?
want to say it was
Oh,
like
okay.
fifth grade, maybe sixth
See,
grade, something like that. And then my brother like loved it. So like if he had it on, I just watched it in the background. I just remember like sitting there watching it with him, watching with my dad, and whatever friends I had, if they had it on, I'd watch it.
see, I could never. I wrestling was like a very small group of friends. Like Ray was in that group, and like Ray
Mhm.
would be the friend that I could be like who would want to come over and watch pay-per-views, or I'd
Yeah.
make to come over and like
He'd
watch
make,
pay-per-views. But like,
I'm
I
sure
could,
he came willingly.
yeah, yeah, like it's a Sunday. It's like, hey, you want to come over and watch this? And like Ray would like help facilitate the sleepovers. Like
Mhm.
as we got older, like I said, it was Alex Maders when we were younger, and then when we were in high school, it'd be like me and Scott and Ray playing
Mhm.
in 64 and watching wrestling
Wrestling.
and stuff like that. So Ray was always the friend that felt like would be into whatever I told him I was into.
He was a good friend.
A great friend, but Ray is the friend that got me into hip hop.
Really?
Yeah, like I liked hip hop, like rap, but my
Mhm.
dad was very strict. Like I can remember one of the Salt and Pepper songs, one of the two that was hot when we were like, it
Mhm.
was either What a Man or Shoot. But there's a line in there about like pimp. I think it's What a Man, where it's like he's not a wannabe trying to be a pimp.
Mhm.
And I remember like rapping, and it's like 1994. I'm like 11, and my dad is like, he's not a wannabe trying to be a pimp. Yeah, and my dad goes, "Hey, you know what a pimp is? It's a guy that sells pussy for money." And I'm just like, like, oh my god. All right,
You're
I
like,
won't.
no, I didn't know what that meant, but now
Well,
I do.
it's like, okay, let's turn on some Stevie Wonder then. Yeah, I don't want to listen to this at all. So like I was always kind of afraid to listen to rap music in the house.
Okay. I mean, that makes
Ray's
sense.
Ray's mom was super down. So Ray's family on his mom's side
Mhm.
is a large population of is biracial.
Okay.
The way I said that is so weird. A large population. Which a large part of Ray's
Majority.
family is biracial, yeah.
Mhm.
And so like a lot of Ray's first cousins are half black,
Okay.
exactly like me, right? So again, like parties, New Year's, things like that. Ray, and his cousins would be over at the house, and like
Mhm.
they were all from the city, and they would be playing Slick Rick, and just like
Yeah. Yeah.
all these like artists that I never really listened to in the house. And so
Mhm.
Ray was Ray's mom got him Old Dirty Bastard for like Christmas when we were
Stop it.
like, yeah, when we were like 10. And he was like, "Oh, you can't tell my dad. Like my dad can't know." And we used to and so like we used to sit at the bus stop, and kids would drive by listening to rap songs, and like they
Mhm.
would have a tape deck in or maybe a CD player, and like all these curses, and we're like, "Where do you hear curses on the radio? Like, where do you hear these songs?
Right.
What is this music?" Ray was always the first one in, and I was very naive. I was like very radio friendly, whatever was out at the
Mhm.
time. So, but never got to go to concerts.
Really?
Yeah.
You got to make up for it now.
Oh, I go into yeah, now all the time, and but it didn't start to college. That's why you say like, why didn't we should have gone to concerts? Like that
Mhm.
wasn't a thing that I
Thing
was
for
like,
you. Yeah.
yeah, I never got to go. I didn't know how to do it. My parents like never took me to that stuff.
Mhm. I
My
think
first,
go ahead.
well, I was gonna say my first concert was New Edition and 112. And I
Okay.
remember like
Oh,
telling Ray, like,
112.
yeah, I remember telling like
Yes.
112, they're on the Biggie album, and the Puff Daddy album. Like maybe they'll do some Biggie songs or something, or like, but yeah, like that was as close as it came for me.
I think my parents went to concerts. They were concert people and they still are. I mean, my mom likes Rod Stewart and Bon Jovi and my dad loves ZZ Top, but like they would go to concerts and I think that's where I got my love of music and concerts from was them. I mean, I remember as a kid going to the Beach Boys and going to the Monkees concert. Like at, what was it, Valley Forge Music Fair, like that small,
Yes, the
yes,
round.
that was like, I was a little kid going to concerts. And that being said, I think it just resonated with me as I got older, and I love going to concerts. My husband, on the other hand, he's not a big concert fan. So I'm like, well, my friends and I will go to concerts. You stay home.
He's just not in that. He's not in that crew.
He's like, I'm not going to pay money to go see a show. Like, I'm not going to spend all this money on a ticket for a couple hours. Whereas me, I'm like, I don't care. I'll spend as much money as I want.
Yeah, how much do you need?
As close as I can. Even if I'm all the way at the top, I don't care as long as I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely not a concert person, whereas I am 100%. Like, my college roommate, who is one of my best friends, she was my maid of honor at our wedding. Her and I go to concerts like it's our job. Like, for real. Like I said, the one summer I went to so many concerts. Most of them were with her. And we did like the country concerts where they did the mega tickets. That was like 7 concerts right there. And then I went to like Backstreet Boys, Dave Matthews. It was like I think I went to a concert every single weekend from May to Labor Day.
Do you have a favorite concert from high school? Like
high school?
Event, the time.
I would say senior year U2 concert. The U2 concert was pretty amazing.
Which album? Was that a specific album that was out? I'm not as versed. I mean, I know a handful of U2 songs.
But I can't remember. I don't think so. I can't remember. I remember there was a heart on the floor, and we were like at the V of the heart.
Oh, sit down right up in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But cool.
Yeah, we went to so many concerts. Like I said, my father, God love him, I think he was our driver for most of the concerts. And then when I had my license, depending on where it was, I would drive.
How about movies? Any movies from school that you were?
I mean, Dirty Dancing was always like the favorite. That
I've got this
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
The movie?
Wasn't that a movie?
With Luke Perry and Christy Swanson.
Luke Perry was my favorite.
Yeah, same. Oh, right, because you like 90210.
I love 90210.
Oh my God, same.
Oh my God,
I love 90210.
So I guess it was last year, 2 years ago, when they started having it back on TV. I definitely recorded every single episode and started from episode 1 and watched the entire series. I was obsessed with the show. But then like you get to high school and you're like, this doesn't happen.
See, I would hear about these parties and again, from the popular, obviously there's tiers to this shit. And your level, while you had lots of friends, right? The popular crowd. And I start off by saying, like, I never really heard about rumors. And even with like Kelly Brook and like other friends you were friends with, right? Like I never heard really rumors about your group of friends, but the popular crowd, as you would call it, right? The cool kids, which was a large group of friends, but any range of things that would happen on 90210, you could hear about, as far as like cheating on your boyfriend or girlfriend, or fights that would break out, or drugs that were being done, or just overall parties, whatever, like all that stuff you would hear about. So that was my impression.
Right. See, I guess because I was
that I was missing.
I was like, this doesn't happen. We don't have these parties. We're not that rich to have these ginormous parties. And who drives a car? Who drives a Porsche? Who drives this? And I'm like, no, this doesn't happen.
But people did have nice cars in our school. People drove BMWs and Mercedes and Xteras and Lincoln Navigators. And
I remember Will Lavelle had his nice little red convertible. What the hell kind of car was that? I can't remember, but it was a 2-seater little red convertible.
Well, it went with the frosted tips. Yes. You know, we've talked about this. He and I have talked about this. It's okay. It's okay. And laugh.
This is great. Oh my God. Well, speaking of 90210, I ended up meeting Jason Priestley in Florida, because in Marco Island, where we go every October, my parents have a timeshare. They had a film festival down there, and it was junior year. After I took my SATs, I flew down, and he was in a bar that my parents were having dinner at, and I have a picture with him. And I was like, oh my God, I was so like shell shocked, like Like I didn't know what to say. I was like, I just went up and was like, "Can I get a picture with you?" Like, and he was short. He was like my height,
Yeah,
like a
he is
little
tiny.
taller than me. And I was like, I didn't think you were that short.
Yeah, he's a tiny guy. So you know what's funny is like so before 90210, I didn't get into 90210 until Tiffany Amber Thiessen joined, and that's why I got into it.
Because
But
of Saved by the Bell.
because of Saved by the Bell. So I grew up a huge Saved by the Bell fan.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 10, 9 going on 10, it's weird that I remember that, but it's wrestling related. I was I was in the modeling thing, and I was working at the car show, the Philadelphia car show, where
Okay.
Mario Lopez
Stop.
was signing autographs.
That's
And
cool.
I was like, so I watched like Saved by the Bell like every day on TBS, like at 5:30. And it just like I was obsessed. And the idea of like coming face to face with Mario was like too much. I couldn't do it. More so, they're telling me to cut the line. And I'm like, I can't cut the line. Like, what if I get in trouble? What if they tell me like I'd be so embarrassed in front of Slater? I can't do it. So one of the other models, like a teenage girl, like went up for me, and it was like this big line. He's on the stage and went up and like got his autograph and pointed to me. He's like, "It's that kid down there," and I'm like,
"That's great." You're like, "Hey."
Yes, and I still got the autograph picture of
Oh
Mario Lopez.
Do you still have it?
Yeah, in a scrap.
Yes.
I absolutely have it. And
Yes.
yeah. So I like when you talk about like you were like, oh my god, I was so fucking starstruck.
It's like you don't know what to do. It's like, what do I say? How do I act? And we went and Jenny Garth was at the King of Prussia Mall signing autographs. So I have a picture that she signed as well. Where it is, I don't know. It's in a box somewhere at my parents', but I definitely have hers as well.
If I could jump back to high school.
Yes, go ahead.
Did you have anything as you're like coming up through school? Was there anything that you were involved in sports and you're a pretty good student? You like school. Was there anything that you were starting to formulate in your head that you thought, I want to do this in college, or I think when I grow up, this is what I want to be? Was that ever a thought in your head?
No, I mean, when you're younger, you're like, oh, I want to do this. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I wanted to do, that was like my main thing because I loved animals. But then I was like, I'm not really into blood and anything like that. So yeah, I mean, my major in college was communications, and I ended up only being in college for a year and a half, and college just wasn't for me, and that was that. But I never really knew like where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. What I'm doing now, I enjoy, but at the same time, I'm like, could I do something else? Probably. I thought would be like a great job to be like an event planner or party planner or wedding planner. But at the same time, I'm like, I want my weekends. I want a 9-to-5 job, but I want to do these fun events. And that's pretty much what I do for my company now. Well, when we were in the office, I do all our events for work, and I work at Health Advocate right now. So when we had events, it was, I put on all the parties and all the fun stuff. But at the same time, like I was like, I could be a wedding planner. This would be a great job. I could do parties and do like a big party planning event. But at the same time, you think about it, you have to work nights and weekends. And I'm like, I can't I wanted to have a social life and do these during the day.
You want to be able to party outside of the parties.
Yes.
That is really funny you say that, because this is what you were, like I was saying, like
in general.
Yeah. You were like
in high school.
One of the you were initiating the parties. And this is what you still enjoy doing.
I do. I mean, I love hosting parties. I love going to parties. I love throwing parties for people. Like I've thrown my mom a surprise party, my brother a surprise party, our friends. So, I mean, I'm party planner over here. Just call me.
So you went to, I'm going off the top of my head, but in my head, I feel like you went to Bloomsburg.
I did.
So prior to going to Bloomsburg, were you looking at other colleges? Were you with a purpose of anything?
No, I mean, we did a college tour of like Pennsylvania colleges. Like we went to Lock Haven, East Stroudsburg. What was the other one? Millersville, Bloomsburg. I'm trying to think of the other one we went to. No.
Just naming everything from the Poconos up.
I can't remember. There's one more, but I know like Lock Haven, I wouldn't even get out of the car. I was like, I'm not going to school here. Like my mom's like, you have to get out and walk the campus. So to this day, we make fun of my mom. You have to walk the campus, but
What
legit,
was it?
I wouldn't get out of the car. I just didn't like it. I was like, this isn't my school. I'm not going here. End of story.
What was it about? What were you seeing in the car that you knew it wasn't your
I
school?
don't know. It was just kind of like dull and dreary, and it just wasn't a place I wanted to go. It wasn't a place I could see myself spending every day at. And I was like, nope. We get to Bloomsburg, we pull up, and I was like, this is it. This is where I want to go.
So wait, can I just go back to this for a second?
Yes.
So you're 17, 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You drive to Lock Haven, which is what, hour and a half?
Something like that, yeah.
You're with your parents.
Mm-hmm.
You drive up.
And I say, we're not getting out of the car.
Not getting out of the car. Let's go back on home.
100%. My dad goes, okay, let's go. My mom's like, no. How do you know? How do you know you're not going to like it here? I was like, from the second we pulled in, I don't like it. I'm not getting out of the car.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
such a brat move. Yes.
Yeah, that's like the first sign of like stereotypical bratness.
I know.
I've seen it. Just like I picture you like all right, so I picture you with your arms folded in a hoodie with your crinkly hair, just being like, I'm not getting out of the car.
100%. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. My parents will attest to that because I was like,
that's so wild.
We're not getting out of the car.
Wow.
Yeah. So whenever we go places, mom's like, come on, let's go. I'm like, you have to walk the campus, don't you, mom? You got to walk the campus.
So, did you go to all the other schools? Did you visit the other schools?
We visited them. Yeah. I feel like we made a weekend out of it and we did all of them.
You just drove up 309 and just kept on going.
Yes.
Did you, get out of the car for the other schools?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So we walked around other campuses and I was like, Bloomsburg it is. That was my first pick, my first choice. And luckily I got in and I was like, I'm going to go to Bloomsburg. And I wanted to be like away, but not too far away because I still wanted to be able to come home every now and then and work and see my parents and friends. And at the same time, it was just far enough. Like it wasn't like they could just stop by on their weekend out kind of thing. You know, it wasn't Cabrini, it wasn't Villanova. They couldn't just drive over one day and come say hi. It was just far enough away. Nice 2-hour drive.
So when you say you wanted to work, so you were still playing. So you worked at Sports Authority till 2008. So you were still coming back.
Every now and then I'd come back and I'd work. Yes. Like I'd pick up a shift. Like I still had my job there. And I'd pick up a shift every now and then if I was coming home for the weekend.
How do you stay dedicated to like coming back and picking up shifts when you haven't been working for 3.5 months?
I think because it was more to see my friends and I needed money for school and jobs up in Bloomsburg were few and far between and the pay was crap. It was way less than what I was getting paid there. So I was like, oh, I'll come home and work a shift or I'll come home and babysit or I just come home to see, you know, there was an event going on and I'd come home for that. But yeah, I kept my job all through college and you know what, it worked out well because my friends would come up and visit in Bloomsburg or I'd come home and we'd have a party or we'd, you know, just catch up or I just go in, work and come home. And it was nice because Kevin DeProsperous was up there, Megan McDougall, Chris Gebert was up there, Brianne McQuaid was up there. So there were still people from high school and we'd always carpool home. If one of us was going home, who else needed a ride? So it actually worked out well. And then I would drive up sometimes, bring my car up and then drive us all back home, leave my car. And then one of our parents would take us back.
For socially, did you hang out with the Wissahickon people at Bloomsburg? Or did you also get your own crew?
No.
there. Was that
no.
another crowd that you were able to formulate?
Yeah. Yeah, I had like my college friends too. And then like you'd go to other colleges to visit friends. And I went to Penn State to visit Katie Ryan. And we went to where did Jamie and Lauren go? One went to Lehigh and the other one went to Muhlenberg. So we'd go there to visit.
Lauren went to Muhlenberg.
Yes. Yeah, we went up there to visit. Yeah, it was nice to be close to like your friends' colleges, so you could just go and visit if you wanted to. But then other times it was, does anyone want to come here? Or we're going out, or it was nice to be far enough away, but not too far away at the time. So it worked out well. But yeah, like I had my college friends, which, it's funny. I'm friends with my college roommate who was when I first went to Bloomsburg, I was in a triple with two other girls.
In a triple?
There were three girls in one dorm room.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
I didn't know what that meant for
two bunk beds and one loft kind of bunk bed with your computer underneath in the small little dorm room.
Sounds like a great time.
No, it was not. It was not. And I mean, my roommates were not the best.
Oh.
So when a room opened up, my friend Maureen, who lived down the hall, she was also in a triple room as well. We decided we were going to live with each other come second semester. And she is now currently one of my best friends. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few people and then our other friend, Crystal and CJ, lived across the hall from us. And the four of us are still like super, super close. We text almost every day. We see each other as much as we can before COVID. But yeah, the four of us, we are all so very close still, which is nice.
When Ray died, it severed our group. I think a little bit.
Really?
A lot. Yeah. I don't think it wasn't like a spoken thing, but I think it made things, and we all went different ways, right? Mm-hmm. Like we really just kind of like
went your own way.
Yeah, went our own way, but I can't help but think that was a large part of it, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the trauma or whatever. For you guys with the Sports Authority crew, mm-hmm. How did that affect your friendships with everybody?
I honestly think it brought us closer. I'm not going to lie. I really think it did. Now, mind you, we were all close to begin with. Like we would, after work, we'd always be together or on weekends, depending on, what was going on. But yeah, I honestly think it brought us closer. Like my friend Adam and I mean, we've been friends since I was 16, and him and I used to go to Ray's grave on the anniversary of his passing up until probably, I want to say like, I don't know, 10 years ago. We used to go for like the first initial 10 years. We went almost every year, either right before, right after, or right on the day of his passing. And we just go, and it's crazy. This sounds really weird and totally, I don't even know. I used to go to the cemetery at night after work, and that's when I would go and sit there and just, tell him everything that happened all day. And it was weird. It was just it was my quiet time there. And I was it helped me I guess heal and grieve in a way that where I knew no one else was going to be there. And I wasn't going to run into anyone, because you never know who's going to be at the cemetery and who's visiting. And I didn't want to run into his parents or Kim or, friends. I was I just need my time. And that's,
it was such a weird, and that's, a while back when I asked you, was that your first death like that? Because, we've lost so many people from Wissahickon.
Yes, we really
since
have.
we graduated.
We really have.
For it to happen in real time while we're in school was such a unique thing. And I think about how I handled it, and I think I still handle it the same way. I think I was just very I try to just be open about it. Mm-hmm. And I think that mitigated the I hope this doesn't sound like a negative word, but the dramatics of it. Mm-hmm. And I I don't know. I'm just curious as to like your perception of kind of like the first, like I felt like that was like the first real big death in our school period.
I think it was. I don't think there was anyone before him that I can remember. And
Growing up, like people had passed when we were like car accidents and fires and things like that growing up in like
Mhm.
elementary school and people in the neighborhood. But like for something like in high school, that was like the most like shocking, the most like, that current, like
Yeah.
real time, like death that I can remember.
I
Um,
mean, I don't think there was one before that I can remember that was that, you know, that was in our class that was someone we all knew. I mean, whether it was in passing, yeah, you end up in class with at least, I would say, every single person that we went to high school with at some point in our schooling. And I feel like whether you knew him or you didn't, you knew of him. And I think that was like, I think it affected everyone in some way because you're you're not thinking you're going to lose a classmate or anyone of your age, and you think like, oh, that could have been my friend that I just lost, and I think it brings it back to, you don't wish that on anyone. You don't want, you don't think that it's, I guess when it's someone you're not like super close with, it's devastating, but it's not the same devastation that you and I had when we heard that he fell in the accident and everything that was going on. And I think it's, to be in high school and have to deal with it is a lot, because you're like, we have the rest of our lives. Nothing bad's going to happen. We're living our life. We're having fun. We're in high school. We're young. Nothing bad can happen to us. And then that happens, and it's like it puts everything back into perspective, and you're like, shit can happen anytime now. I feel like in high school it was just like, nothing bad's going to happen to us. You think you're invincible and everything's okay, and then this happens, and it's like, this is life. This is what's going to happen, and it sucks that we had to deal with it in high school, that it wasn't, that we didn't have a lifetime with him.
yeah, I have a very vivid memory of sitting with Ray and Alyssa Maley in the upstairs cafeteria and talking about like future life and like
Mhm.
the type of things that we thought we were going to do
Mhm.
as grown-ups, and like what our friendships would be like, and like even like down to like what we thought we would be wearing, and like like and like just thinking like so far ahead in our head. It's like, when we're 24, I bet this is what we'll be doing type of thing.
Right.
It was
And that
such a
seems like a lifetime, like, a lifetime in the future, that you're not thinking like something bad's going to happen to you and your friends.
yeah, it was so foreign, that type of experience, that I think even in real time, I think I struggled with, and this may even come off like, I don't know, like removed from reality, but I don't know, but like I struggled with what was the proper reaction.
Really?
I felt like all eyes were on me
That makes sense. I
on
mean, because you
mourning.
were because you were so close, and everyone knew that you guys were such good friends. So I get, yeah, that would make sense.
But even,
100%.
like I don't know, like I don't even know if I knew that. I just felt like, I don't know, I just felt like there was like when I just felt like being around, there was like a spotlight on it, and it felt weird, and I felt, I don't know. I think all the growing, I think like all since that time, I felt like and that's why I said like it felt like, I don't know, like robotic, or like the way that I responded to it was just very like realistic. Like I can talk about how I felt about it
Hmm.
without, I guess I said like lack of dramatics or not dramatic. Like I felt like I could talk about it without being so
Emotional
visually,
about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which I think comes off as impersonal or unemotional, or like I said, robotic.
No, I think it's just everyone deals with grief in their own way. And if that's the way, y- you don't want to, maybe you didn't want to be emotional around other people, but when you were by yourself, you were, or with like your family or your core group of friends or his family, then you'd grieve one way, but when you're talking about it with other people, you grieve another way. And it's a coping mechanism, I think, in that sense. So you're
Yeah.
not like putting all your emotions out there. And at the same time, it was hard. I mean, it's still kind of hard to talk about it. Hmm.
Yeah, it's I don't know what I guess I'm curious, like what for you, like having such a different relationship than I had, where like
Hmm.
I guess I felt like my identity was tied to Ray as like, when I and with this whole podcast, I had such a small group of friends. What was that like for you, where it was such a different friendship and it wasn't through school, but it's all coming out in school?
I mean, I guess people didn't realize that him and I were so close because, like I said, it was my work crew, and he was through work, and I would, like I said, we didn't have classes together. It was a hey, how are you kind of thing in the hallway, but it wasn't like we'd stand outside school and chat for an hour because we knew we'd see each other at work and that's when we would talk. And I just think that people didn't realize how close we were through work, or that we were even friends. Because I know like a lot of people were like they knew we were friends through through work, but it wasn't that connection that we had a friendship as much as we did. Because honestly, we were, like I said, we would go on every time we were together at work and we had the same break. We were always at Friendlies, at Wendy's, at Spatola's. Like those were our lunch places, or
Did
we
love
just, oh
Spatolas.
my God, their mozzarella sticks. I don't even know. Their pizza, the mozzarella sticks, that's what we would get every
Yo,
single time.
mozzarella sticks is Mark's favorite food.
Oh my God,
Mozzarella sticks
100%.
and honey buns are like his two favorite foods.
100%. I know. And that was like what we would order. And, or if we didn't have a break together, we just go sit in his car and chit chat for, 20 minutes and be like, we'll be right back. We'll be back in a little bit. And I know he was like talking to this girl, Tori, that we worked with at the time, like right before he passed. And we talk about her and, what do I think of her? And he'd give me advice on guys. And it was just like, it was just a friendship that, like I said, I feel like we'd still be friends now had he not passed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was, and I like going to school, it was hard to like go back and after he passed and like have people ask, how are you doing? And it's like that emotional, like you really don't want to talk about it. You just kind of want to go through your day and get through it. And, not that you didn't want to think about it, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to be. I remember having to leave class because I would get emotional and I'd start crying. And I'm like, I can't be in class right now. So I'd leave. And I remember Mr. Curcio being like, just go, leave. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Go do what you need to do. Like I left school a couple days because I'm like, the questions, it's how are you doing? How are you feeling? And then it brings up, all your emotions again. And you're like, I just want to get through the day.
Yeah, we took the
Now,
full week, I think.
yeah, I was going to say, did you take, I know you took the whole week, but like after that, how were you at school? Was it like you said, you weren't really dramatic about it, but were you getting questions? Or was it
I
just kind of like a
I
robotic motion, like just
I
spitting
can
out the answers
remember
kind of thing?
I can only remember like handful of moments. It was a
Mhm.
blur. Like I
It
know
really was.
I took the week off,
Hmm.
and I remember being back in school, and I remember like Drew Moyer, like just very specific like flashes of like Drew
Hmm.
Moyer giving me his condolences and thinking like, someone that's like obviously like has this mindset of like cooler kids and all that. And like,
Hmm.
wow, Drew Moyer is like condoling me. Like that seems so
Right.
outside of like again, he was in this calculus class that,
Hmm.
I talked about. And running into Ann Patterson in like the stairwell and knowing Ann being my first crush ever, right? And
Oh,
from like kindergarten when,
right.
or first grade when I first met Ray, and
Hmm.
seeing Anne, and like that was almost like like a flashback moment of like how young I was when I first met Ray, and then
Right.
and seeing Anne really brought all that kind of like wow, Madison Avenue, and Ambler and just being 5 and 6 years old. Like that
Mhm.
was like a moment I still remember. I don't know if she does, but like that is so poignant.
Yeah.
And then I stopped going to lunch. I just
Really?
yeah, I had no so this is like I've never really talked about this too much. I've talked about like not going to lunch and which turned into like this kind of like random connection that I had with Bethany, where I started going to the library where she had study hall. And
Okay.
as we now found out through my yearbook entries, that this is where I ended up talking to Alicia a lot, to where like Alicia and Bethany both wrote these really like long passages in my yearbook,
Mhm.
and had this like kind of like just inside joke with Bethany, and it all stemmed from the fact that I didn't go to lunch anymore, and like and Bethany being the kind of the next death that happened in
Mhm.
Wissahickon, it really, really impacted me as like such a one, just the sorrow, but then the connection of the memory of the whole reason why I have these memories of Bethany in senior year
Mhm.
was because I was like trying to cope with my feelings of Ray's death.
Mhm.
And it really and I started and so when I graduated high school, never talk about this, this is weird. When I graduated high school,
Tell me all about it.
I almost weighed 300 pounds. I was
Yes.
like close to like probably I was like last I remember was like 275, maybe more.
Okay.
I wore like a 46-inch waist, like going on more, like was
Mhm.
heavy. I stopped eating when
Really?
Ray died, which was part of like not eating lunch. It wasn't like a conscious thing. I just didn't have an appetite at
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
And so I would have these conversations in the library with Bethany and Alicia, and then I would come home and I would like drink soda and eat ice cream. And I don't know, I just changed. And part of
Mhm.
that was just I didn't eat a lot, period. But then when I eat, it would just be like a little bit junk food. But I
Right.
dropped tons of weight from that.
Mhm.
To where like one by the time I graduated like college, I was like 185 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've like found a happy medium, uh,
Mhm.
since then. But that was like a direct effect of Ray's passing that I can't, I don't know if I guess it was depression. I don't know.
It probably
Um,
was. I mean, I know I was like, I you don't I know with anyone that like close that passes, I'm not hungry. It's just my way of coping, and it was your way of coping too.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing, and I'll be honest, I don't know if I ever dealt with it like the right way, the proper way.
I don't think there is a proper way to deal with it. Honestly, it's the way it's however you do you. I mean, we had another friend who passed away that worked at Sports Authority as well a couple years later. And he's actually in the same cemetery as Ray is.
Get out.
Yeah. And I mean, we him and I were super close. When did he pass away? I can't even remember, but it's been a little while. Been some years. And I mean, I remember I dealt with his death totally different than I dealt with Ray's death. And we were close and we all worked together, and it was I think I was more I don't want to say more upset with Ray's passing than I was with Chris's, but at the same time, like I remember being not as emotional as I was with Ray's passing as I was with Chris's passing. So you just deal with death in different ways and you grieve differently for different people.
Now, one of the things I think is I don't know if this is interesting, but I do find it I guess interesting that it didn't cause a stronger connection between like you and
I
I,
know.
or like especially now when I hear
Mhm.
about all the things that you're into, and I go, God, we had so many things in
Right. Like
common that we was like,
why weren't we friends? Why weren't we friends?
yeah.
We should have
And
been.
maybe this is, I talk about like that kind of I felt like was like kind of a catalyst for our crew all going different ways. And maybe it wasn't.
Mhm.
Maybe they all will listen to this and go like, dude, you're crazy. We just were growing up and
Right.
all moved,
You grow
whatever.
apart. It happens. It could be it.
but I'm also willing to accept that maybe it was just an internal thing, and so if anything, if I wasn't closer to my friends that I was always close to, I probably wasn't going to be close to you now from that. But I
Right.
definitely felt like a period of time where like we were trying to get to know like Sports 30 guys and like trying to like have that bond. But man, I'll be honest, like it was just really fucking awkward. It was just a really odd, it's just like here's kids just trying to deal with trauma in the most
Yep.
unexpected way and pull our shit together.
Right. At such a young age. I feel like if this had happened when we were in our like mid 20s, late 20s, I feel like it would have been a totally different experience for all of us as well. Like, I feel like we probably would have bonded more and we would have spent more time together. But when you're at that age, I feel like everyone's in like different places and I don't even know. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just the way it happened is, I mean, it still makes me sad to this day.
Yeah. It's
And
I
it's, go ahead.
no, you got.
It's funny because I was like the day of the accident, I was like, it was my day off. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go up. Ray's working, our friends are working. I'm gonna go up and visit. And then the day progressed. I was at the mall, I was here and there doing running errands. And I remember getting a call going, I can't remember who called me because that is like a total blur, being like, there was an accident, Ray fell, get up here as quick as you can. And I was like, what's going on? Yeah. And I
Is
was
it
like, I should have gone up there. Like you think of the like, what should I have done like that day? I just remember being like, why didn't I go? What was the reason I didn't go up there? I should have been up there to hang out, and that would have been my last time to see him. Those are the things that like went through my mind that day.
that was actually one of Ray's three jobs. Right? Ray did like landscaping and plowing
Hmm.
and a few different things. So like Ray loved money. Ray crashed and loved buying old cars. Old,
Hmm.
not as in classics, but like old as in like not in great condition.
Hmm.
And like he loved chains, silver chains, and
Yes, he for sure loved those chains.
and pagers. Right, he was like up on the pagers and like just liked being stylish, and so that
Hmm.
cost money, and so Ray worked. So if there was a shift to take, Ray took it.
He was taking it.
I was at a friend's house, and I remember that was the day that Dale Earnhardt died also.
Hmm.
And I remember that and kind of following that news. And I was out of the house until like 11 o'clock that night.
Hmm.
So I had no
No
idea. No
idea.
one knew where I was. And I didn't have a pager or a cell phone at the time. And so it wasn't until I got home after 11 o'clock and I had a bunch of voicemails. And I
Hmm.
got through like one and a half voicemails. I had a knock on the door. And
Oh,
it was one of
jeez.
one of my friends and one of Mrs. Campion's friends. And I
Hmm.
was just like, whoa, like and and I remember like having to get to the house, and it was like the house was just packed with people, and it was like I don't know. By that point, it had to be like 1 in the morning, and just
Hmm.
packed with people. And I think for like the next week, we pretty much just stayed at the Campion's house.
Yeah, I mean, I know we stayed like we all pretty much stayed together. I know I had my mom had we had so many people at our house, like the Sports 30 crew. And she was like, my mom's like, I didn't know what to do. I just kept baking and cooking. And I was like, I'm feeding you guys and no one wanted to eat, but at the same time you did. And yeah, we had like the Sports 30 crew was at my house in Bluebell and none of them lived that way, but they all came to my house and that's where we all congregated, or we were at the
Yeah.
Antonucci's. And yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, like again, the phrasing that I brought, just like we were just these kids that just didn't know what the fuck to do and what, I
Right. And
mean? We are
how to
just kind of
react to
like,
that.
yeah, it was
The
the
first
first
time that
time.
someone you're close with, or even your age, has passed, you don't know how to react to that. I mean, yes, a family member, grandparent, someone passes, it's devastating, but at the same time, it's a different feeling when it's someone you're close with, someone your age, someone you're friends with.
Yeah.
It's definitely different for how you grieve for different people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've lost a good amount of people from high school, which is so
Every
scary.
every time it brings me back to Ray. Every
Oh,
single time.
100% when I hear something. Yes.
It
It's,
always, no matter the age, the circumstance, it
mhm.
always brings me back to Ray.
Yep.
Um, but it's yeah, and I don't know if that's why, but I feel so, and I don't know. I've asked other people from other like school districts, just other friends, and it's
Mhm.
like it does feel like our class has had this. I hate to say a cloud, but it just feels so
But it's
common.
it's it's true. I mean, how many what is it? 10?
I lost count a while ago, but I mean,
It's too many. Too
it's
many
a
for our high school.
it's a lot, especially when we weren't a large class,
No, we were 393 kids. Like we weren't huge. We weren't a North Penn class of like 1,000.
right? And it
But
feels like 5% of our classes died.
mhm. And I'm sure there's people I haven't heard or but still it's just so crazy.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like Paul Cannon talked about that, like not knowing some of them, and when I was talking to when I did an interview with Aram,
Mhm.
I don't know if I knew and forgot or just never knew, but like I didn't know about Kedam. Um,
He
Kedam,
did?
yeah, Kedam died of cancer. Um,
No.
yeah,
I had no idea.
yeah, like you know what I mean. Like so, there you go.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're not on social media with people and nothing gets posted, you wouldn't know, especially
Yeah,
if they don't live in, the surrounding area.
yeah. It's like it's almost like we're relying on like a Facebook post to
Mhm.
really like
Exactly.
find out.
That's really the only way you would know, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not like we read the newspaper like our parents did and see the obituaries. And I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time I looked at a newspaper
Yeah,
besides to
I
throw
don't
it
even
in
know
the
where
fire.
I don't even know where the guy that sold newspapers at Wawa for $1.75 every Sunday. I have no idea even where you get a newspaper now. So
Right. I mean, I know they still get delivered, but at the same time, like, how would you wouldn't know if anyone else unless it was posted on social media
Facebook,
somewhere.
yeah, yeah, and you know what? It's such an odd thing, and maybe even like an unfair, like to like when I hear about people that pass now, it's like
Mhm.
it, it's so weird because I almost feel like that's when we should be experiencing this.
Right.
Right? Like now is the time when we should be hearing about these early
Yes.
deaths.
Not
Um,
not senior year of high school.
yeah, and it just began such a crazy trend that just seemed
Mhm.
to never
I feel
stop.
like it was like every year.
Every year,
Mhm.
sometimes twice a year.
Yeah.
It's wild. Yeah, it's part of it's almost it's something, and I take it out sometimes. I don't even include it in some podcasts because I don't want I don't I'm sensitive to the podcast being branded as this or that or that or
I
this.
understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, and but it is like almost everybody's got an experience with someone that's passed
Mhm.
um in from high school, from our class,
Yeah.
prior to us being 40.
Yep. And it's so scary and so sad.
Um so yeah, I wanted to ask you, like, so you went to Bloomsburg
I did.
and then you said you only went for a year and a half.
I did.
So what led to you leaving school?
Well, I college wasn't my thing. I wasn't into like the big classes. And mind you, I wasn't even like really partying. I party, but I wasn't like missing classes. It was just I wasn't taking tests. I couldn't take like I'd study all night, study all day, knew everything. I'd go and take a test, fail it. So I pretty much failed out.
Really?
Yeah. And it
What
was
was
and I just
what
was
changed?
not I don't
What
know. I think it was like I don't know. I don't know if it was I couldn't focus. I had test anxiety. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't for me. And my mom was like, "Do you want to go back? And do you want to go to Monco?" And I went to Monco for a semester. And I was like, "You know what? School isn't for me. College is not my thing. High school,
Wow.
I loved. College, I love the social aspect of college, but the work of college, I did not.
And we just talked about like how much you liked school.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was definitely like a test anxiety thing. Like I would go into class knowing everything, knowing what I needed to do. And I'd start the test and I'd bomb it. And it was like all the time. It didn't
Was
matter how much I studied.
Were the tests different, different style of tests, like versus what you were experiencing in high school as far as like fill in the blank or multiple choice or Scantron, or were there differences that
I don't know, honestly. I don't know what the problem was. It was just it just wasn't there for me. And like you said, I love the social aspect. I like learning. It was just when it came time to take tests and do my papers, it just wasn't there. So I came home and went to Monaco for a semester and I was like, you know what? School's not my thing anymore. It was my thing in high school. College is not. And
yeah.
I stopped going to school and I worked at Sports Authority full time and moved from Montgomeryville to King of Prussia for Sports Authority and worked there and ran their delivery and assembly stuff for a while. And then I quit there and got a job at a banking company and worked there for 7 years until I got laid off. And then I ended up putting in my resume at Health Advocate where I am now. And my friend Adam, who worked at Sports Authority, and my friend Brian, who worked at Sports Authority, both worked at Health Advocate at the time. And I ended up going there. So I've been there for 6 years.
Wow. So it sounds like I don't know, I hope I hope I don't say this like improperly, but like
No,
just a
go ahead.
very modest career path.
Yeah.
I've always like had it in my brain that I have to have some semblance of what I did in the past, or I should be what I'm doing now should be a little hint of what I want to do in the future, so I can showcase that. But it sounds like you, with leaving college, gave up that stress or that pressure, and
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's stressful to find a job that, I mean, right now I can, on my resume, I could probably put a list of, 10 pages of different things I've done at both jobs. But at the same time, it's so hard to find jobs that'll take someone that doesn't have a degree. And that was always my issue. Like with certain things, I'm like, I've done this before. I can do this job. I've done it in the past. But because I don't have a degree, you're not going to hire me, or you're going to look over my resume because I never finished. But at the same time, then there's other companies that it's not needed. And they look at your resume and they're like, okay, you've done all this for the last 7 years. We're not going to, brush over you because you don't have a degree. We'll bring you in for an interview and see how you do. And like you said, when I left the bank, when they laid us off at the banking company, I had put in 7 years there. I started it as an admin and I did reception and then I did travel and then I would do all the voiceover stuff. Like I'd listen to the voices for the training and make sure nothing was, all the words were said properly, everything was correct. And then I was doing interviewing for subject matter experts in the UAE, all over the place, for this banking company, to have them put in, information for our training. So I did like a whole wide range of things at this company.
My friends and I've got a degree in film and media arts. We all just go like, I don't know what my degree is worth anymore. To be completely honest, like
it's true.
The film degree feels like just the bachelor's degree in general feels obsolete, to where you just go like, well, I don't have a master's or a doctorate, so I almost feel ridiculous putting my degree. It's like a line. It's just a line.
It's a line on a resume.
It's 2 to 3 lines that I can't get back by, to put what my actual experience is, because I have to spend these 2 to 3 lines by putting a description, the year, the city, and the school. And it's just like, I wish I could just talk about more of my real life experience that makes me more qualified.
Right. Exactly.
But I put it on there because I'm trained to put it on there, and I don't think it helps me in any way.
Well, I mean, honestly, I haven't looked for a job in 6 years. Whether that's changed now, I don't know. But
Yeah.
back then it was like I'd apply for jobs and I wouldn't, they'd be like, well, you don't have a degree. Well,
That's why we went to college, because
right.
that's what we thought.
Yeah.
That was the barrier,
Mhm.
20, 15, 20
Yep.
years ago. That was
Yep.
exactly, it's like you were a fool if you didn't go. And that kind of harkens back to like, and I don't know, maybe you feel different about this, maybe you feel this way now, but like Ray and Scott and Josh all went to tech school.
Hmm.
And when I talked to Daniel Cataldi, whose brother Derek was like huge with tech school and ended up
Danielle
like,
actually worked at Health Advocate too when I
oh,
was there.
see,
Yeah.
that's funny.
Mhm.
But like he like worked in ended up getting like working in the union, and Danielle and I talked a lot about like that whole persona of not going to college or going to tech school.
Mhm.
One of the things that when I talked about like that sit down with me and Ray and Alyssa where we talked about like our future, definitely part of that future was that Ray was like working.
Yeah.
I was like doing something with film, and Alyssa was like in college and working in an office, and like Ray was like working with his hands and like designing houses or something,
Mhm.
but like didn't go to college and was just like working in the field. And but the persona I felt like in school was that
You go to college.
you have to go to college, and people who were training to work with their hands were dumb or just didn't have the interest in going to college were dumb. If knowing now how kind of how your college career went, going back there, would you have gone to tech school or worked or try to apply yourself at a younger age in a different skill to
I
excel
don't
it in
know.
what you're doing now?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think I probably would have still gone to college because at the time I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do, something along the lines in communications, but I didn't really know what aspect or what road I wanted to take in that. And at the same time, I I think I'm glad I went to college, but at the same time I'm like, could I have done without it? Probably, but at the same time it was kind of like you go to college, everyone goes to college, you have to go to college. And it was just kind of like the norm. Everyone went.
But see, you got the social aspect out of it, so don't feel like you lost or wasted any of that time to get to
No,
where what you're doing or where you are now.
no, I don't
Um,
think so.
what do communications mean to you when you say that you are a communication? So I was a communications major at Monco.
Hmm.
When I left Wissahickon, what for you as a communications major? What were you interested in?
I at first I was like, oh, I want to be in radio and TV. And I, like I said, I didn't really have a path. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I really just wanted to do something along those lines. But at the same time, I wanted ideas and options as to, branch out. And if there was something else that saw or thought about when I was at college, I would, jump on that. But at the same time, and at one point, I wanted to do like um, criminal justice. And I was like, where did that come from? Like, this is totally random. But when I went to Monco for the semester, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And then that didn't happen.
So for you then, like, as an
Mhm.
adult, you did most of, were you dating, I guess, like through your 30s?
Yeah. I mean, I had a serious relationship when I was, God, how old was I? I don't know, 12 years ago or so. And we were together 3.5 years. It just didn't work out. And then I kind of stopped dating like seriously for a while. And then I would date and it would, online dating because meeting people at the bars at, in your mid 30s is, or early 30s, I should say, is, yeah, I know. Um, and it was like I'd go on dates, I'd get ghosted, I'd go, who stood who up. The dates were terrible. They weren't who they were. Or, you meet people at bars and you're like, hey, let's, make plans to go out. And then you don't hear from them or you find out their true colors. I mean,
I'm doing that to three girls right now. No,
how are you?
no, no, no.
I mean, it was it was a lot dating. And I, I mean, I hated dating
Mm.
because you start dating someone, you date them for a couple months, and then it's like, all right, well, this isn't going anywhere. We're getting older. Don't waste our time. Just end it. And then I actually so it's funny. My husband and I met. We actually started like talking 6.5 years ago on Plenty of Fish.
Oh yeah, POF.
Yeah, that's where we started talking, and we stopped talking for probably a year and a half. Like he was seeing someone, I was seeing someone, and I got back on, and he was on, and I was like, "Hey, stranger," and we went out on our first date at Redstone.
Oh, on Plenty of Fish,
And
you met, but you reconnected on Plenty of Fish.
yep,
That's so
yep,
suburban. I love that.
yeah,
That's
I
so
know, isn't
suburban.
it?
And then you went to Redstone. Yeah.
We went to Redstone, and I got my
Plymouth meeting.
Stoli Doli, and
Plymouth meeting.
yeah,
Yeah, that's so suburban. I love
I
this.
know, isn't it?
Tell me about your date at the Cheesecake Factory.
What Cheesecake Factory? New
One of
Cheesecake
King of Prussia. You had to go eat cheese. No?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's super suburban. I was just like hoping
No.
to continue the trend.
No, no Cheesecake Factory.
All right.
I don't even hold on, babe, husband. I don't even think we ever went to the Cheesecake Factory.
Really? That
In
surprises me.
the whole time we've been together.
Wow. You were like Cheesecake Factory is like the creme de brulee. Maybe that's wrong to say for Cheesecake Factory, but like that's where like I feel like that's like the nice restaurant in the suburbs back then.
No, we never. I mean, I don't think we've ever gone there. Now that I think about it, but yeah, we 4 years ago in November, we went on our
at Redstone.
At Redstone, we went on our first date, and we've been together ever since.
What felt different? I mean, obviously, so you talked about like the biological, clock and all that stuff. Did you look? I asked this because like now as I'm 37 and single and not close and want to have kids and all that, right? I look at like, I wonder about like things that were problems in the past. And I sometimes think like, oh, that's not a big deal to me now. Like that's not a reason to break up. But like for you going as long as you did, not being married and getting into your mid 30s, did your perspective on what, I don't know, I don't want to say what you can tolerate, but.
No, that didn't change one bit. Absolutely not.
What was different? What was different here that at this point in your life?
I mean, I think
especially when you started off by saying like you didn't want to have kids.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to have kids up until I was probably like 30, and then I was like, I could have some kids. I could do this. It's not terrible idea. Yeah, I would like a few little ones running around. But no, like nothing. My like, I guess standards, as you would call them, I don't know, for what I was looking for in a relationship changed depending how old I got. It was, I stuck with what I wanted, and
he was just the right fit that came along.
Yeah, and you know what? I honestly, when we went out on our first date, it's so funny. This sounds terrible. So, dating online, as you know, is an experience in itself, and it was like I would text my friends, like, this is who this person is, this is their phone number. If you like, I'd go on dates. If you don't hear from me within like 2 hours, call the cops, call my phone, check in. So when my husband and I met, I had texted my friends and I was like, all right, text me in a couple of hours. Now, mind you, we're like 4 hours into our date at dinner. It was like the longest date ever. And I knew on our first date that was it, that he was the one. And I was hoping he felt the same way. But yes, I knew it was just, there was something about him, something about our conversation. We could just, like I said, our date went on for like 4.5 hours.
And that was the longest date you had.
Oh, yeah.
Or longest first date you'd ever had.
And my phone legit is blowing up because my friends are like, are you okay? Are you alive? Do we need to come get you? Do we need to come save you? Are you at Redstone still? So he sees my phone blowing up and he's like, do you need to get that? And I had to tell him why my phone was exploding. at that point because, well, I told them to check in on me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so my standards hadn't changed, and it just works. He fit my criteria.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then like really over the last like 2.5 years, things have just like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got engaged, and then we planned our wedding. We got engaged in November, and we planned the wedding for the following September. And then, like I said, we had the wedding. We put the house up for sale. We found out we were pregnant. We sold our house. We bought a new house, and we moved, and then had the baby.
Was there a reason for such a quick engagement? Can I ask that?
No, we just decided we were just started looking, and a lot of places were booked into 2020. And we were like, thank God we didn't wait.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like
pushing our wedding even further. And at the time we were like, we're not getting any younger. You
just knew.
Yeah, we knew. We were like, let's just let's start looking at venues. And we did. And thank God, like I said, thank God we got married when we did, because it's funny because a lot of venues, when we would go look, they were like, we don't have anything until spring of 2020. We don't have anything till fall of 2020, or we only have one weekend in the spring. And we're like, no, like we don't want to wait that long. And when we got married, we live in Broomall, and when we went to look at Paxton Hollow down in Broomall, we were like, this is it. This is perfect venue. They had Sunday over Labor Day weekend, and we figure anyone coming in for the wedding, we could, they get a full come in Friday, and they have off Monday, so they can actually be here for the full weekend. And we had a lot of family coming in from out of state. So it worked. It worked out so well. And I'm thankful we got married when we did.
What's your husband's name?
His name is Bill.
Bill. Mm-hmm. So then you now, as of 3 months ago, had a baby?
2 months. Yep. December 3rd.
Mm-hmm. And obviously you're very happy about it. Like, yes. What's the transition now?
It's a lot. It's definitely been a lot. It's, it's been nice. I got 12 weeks off from work, which is very nice. So I go back in 3.5 weeks, and I'm kind of sad it's happening in 3 weeks. But it's definitely different, now you have another person to take care of, and you got to be attentive and awake in the middle of the night and feed her and take care of her. And it's definitely a different dynamic. And I'm thankful that Bill is very helpful in the house with her, and he changes her. He does bedtime every night with her. But yeah, it's definitely a change. It's not a bad change, but it's, you're like, oh, I'll get some sleep. No, you're not going to get a full night's sleep, but it'll be totally worth it in the end. She's sweet. She's good. I can't complain.
What's her name?
Her name's Olivia.
Olivia.
Mm-hmm.
What's a quarantine COVID pregnancy like?
It was funny because a lot of people at work had no idea I was pregnant. So, I could hide it for the first couple months before we decided to tell anyone. Even like our family didn't know. We didn't tell them until I was 3 months pregnant. I waited. I was like, normal. I don't want to. Yeah. Normal, but right? A lot of people tell like their parents.
Sure. Yeah.
First, like when they find out, but I was like, let's just wait. Let's wait. Yeah. And we both kept the secret, which was, I talked to my friends daily. But during COVID, it was easy to hide not drinking. And we would do Zoom calls with our friends, like Zoom happy hours. And I'd have a seltzer can and I'd put water in it.
Right.
So it looked like I was drinking. So no one would know. Had we been not COVID, I'd be at parties and they'd be like, they would know instantly because I wasn't drinking.
I used to do that when I worked at WWE.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to drink. You call it a kayfabe. Called a kayfabe drink. You put a little seltzer in your short glass and just it's vodka.
Yep. It it was definitely different being, I mean, it was nice being pregnant at home because I was working from home. So, I mean, during my pregnancy, I wasn't sick at all, which was nice. But had I been in the office, it would have been totally different. Like I would have to be running to the bathroom constantly,
Right.
or if I was sick, like they would know instantly that I was pregnant. And it's funny, I ran into a coworker. Now, mind you, I haven't seen him since last March when we were last out of the
That was
office.
that was right at the cutoff.
And I saw him at the grocery store like 2 weekends ago, and he's like, "How are you?" I was like, "Oh, I've been out on maternity leave." He's like, "You had a baby?" He's like, "Had we been in the office, we would have thrown you a baby shower, would have seen you." I
You
was like,
missed the cake.
"I know." I was like, "We missed all this." And he was like, "I had no idea you were pregnant." And it's funny, a lot of people that I work with that like I would see regularly, but I wouldn't see, obviously I don't talk to during COVID because
Yeah.
you're at home. They had no idea. So when I put out my out of office saying I was going out on maternity leave, everyone's like, "You're pregnant?" I had no idea. I'm like,
It's
"Yeah,
funny.
well, surprise."
So one last question that I had,
Sure.
and I did not like I wrote these things down, but like in my head of like, oh, there is something I would like to ask Pam.
Go
Um, and you can not answer if you want because far be it from me to put people's personal shit out there. But
No,
there's
tell me.
when when Pam Leisey is brought up,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that I think most common people say to me, besides your sick obsession and cult like induction of other people into the Dave Matthews world, is that hey, I think Pam's dad won the lottery.
He did. He 100% did. That's a true story.
All right, so I said like I didn't want to bring it up if you don't want to talk about
No,
it because
I'll
like I
tell
don't
you all
want to
about
because
it.
you hear these things about people win the lottery and then it's like their life just goes to shit because every crooked fucking horrible person comes into the world. What? Tell me about it.
Okay, so when we lived in Norristown, now mind you, my father played the lottery all the time. All the time.
Okay.
It was like a daily occurrence.
We're talking like the TV lottery?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the balls. Okay. That
Yep.
might be
Yes.
NBA on NBC, but you know the song.
100%.
Okay.
Yes, that was him. So we were living in Norristown. It was right before Thanksgiving. My dad, we're at my grandparents. I remember it vividly. My dad calls my mom and goes, "Pick a house wherever you want." And
Wait, what year is this?
I was in 3rd grade. So,
Oh my gosh. Okay.
yeah, this is why we moved to Bluebell.
Okay.
She picked that house in that neighborhood. And like, it's funny, both my parents went to Wissahickon. So like Kelly's parents and my parents were friends in high school.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah. So like they had some of the same teachers we had. They knew the teachers we had, like they went to school with them. So
your parents and Kelly Brooks' parents?
Yeah.
And they knew each other?
Yeah, from high school.
That's so both of your parents?
Mm-hmm.
And both of her parents.
Yes.
That's wild.
Yeah. And Melissa McQuaid, she was a year above us.
Yeah.
Her dad and my dad are like our best friends. Her dad is my brother's godfather. Yeah. So crazy, right?
That is.
But yeah, so we were at my grandparents and my dad had called my mom and said, "Pick a house wherever you want when we're moving." And they wanted to get us out of the Norristown school district eventually. So it's funny, he played the lottery and he went up to give his numbers. Well, the girl gave him a quick pick instead of the numbers he wanted. He's like, "I'll just take it." She's like, "I'm sorry," whatever. He's like, "I'll just take the ticket." Took the ticket, he worked at Gennardi's at the time, put it in his meat coat because he was a meat manager, put it in his pocket. Didn't think anything of it, hung his meat coat up, left for the day. The next day, emptied his pockets, threw everything in the trash. Didn't think about the lottery ticket.
Just like in TV.
Legit. This is how it happened. Didn't think anything about it. He said he had this weird feeling. He checked the trash. Thank God they didn't take out the trash. Pulled out the ticket, checked the numbers, and he had won. And it was all because the girl screwed up his ticket, and that's the ticket he won on.
Wow.
So he ended up winning $1.9 million. Yep. Yeah. It's a true story. So we moved to Bluebell.
The taxes had to be a motherfucker.
I don't even know. He did
That's what they always say about the lotteries.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to pay those taxes on it.
Yeah, he did the 21 year, payout. At the time, he eventually he, pulled the rest of it out at one point. But yeah, so that's pretty much why we moved. And now, mind you, both my parents still worked after winning.
Yeah.
I worked, my brother worked growing up. So it wasn't like we were, because we won this money, we were given whatever we wanted. But we were able to move.
You got that 93. What was it? 93 what?
Grand Am.
Yeah, you got that 93 Grand Am. That had to be. I mean, they just gifted that to you.
Yes, it was a gift.
Spoiled.
I know, spoiled ass child wasn't I?
Got the 8-year-old Grand Am.
Hey, I was just thankful to have a car, but I was like they said, if you pay, you have to pay for your insurance and your gas, or else we're taking the car away. And don't you know, I worked my ass off to be able to have that car. And I since I was the oldest in our class, because the cutoff was September 1st for school.
Mm-hmm.
My birthday is September 17th. So I had to wait a whole year to go at Catholic school when I started in Norristown. So that being said, I was the oldest, so I was one of the first ones to be able to drive. So I was driving everyone to school, and after practice, driving everyone home. So I wanted to have that car. I was like, I'm the chauffeur. Like, it's our fun time. This is our time in the morning and after school to like socialize and catch up. So I wanted to have the car, and I was like, I will work my butt off to keep that car. But yes, my father did win the lottery.
What's your perception of your life? You're in third grade. You win 1.8, 1.9. Would you say
1.9?
1.9 million. I mean, your parents work, but like, is there like a we're rich or like a now? When I hear that, I go 1.9. That's not a lot of money.
Right.
When I think about
really not.
that was 30 years ago.
But then it was, yes.
Right. When you think about right now, but when you think about do you have brothers and sisters?
I have a brother. Yes.
You have a brother. Younger. So
yes.
So when you think about you're in 93, you're in like 4th grade, 5th grade. You've got a long life, and your brother has a long life that they need to pay for. College is, I'm assuming, in all the right. It just feels more like $1.9 million is enough to set your future up, but not necessarily live the life that you want to live without having to continue to make money.
Right. It's true. I mean, like I said, they both worked. We got to go on more vacations probably than we would have had
we can have
not
fun.
Had the money.
We can have fun.
Yes.
I mean, we can't live like the Bankses.
Yeah. Like we can enjoy our life, but we're all going to work for what we have, and we just have this extra cushion to, do some other things that we didn't think we could do.
But what was your perception of that being a kid? As a kid, I would think that's a hard thing to grasp. I would think we just won the lottery.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. It was one of those things, you're moving too, and they're like, we're moving. And that was like heartbreaking. I didn't want to move. Right. I was so mad. I was like, why'd you win the lottery? Why are you doing this to me? I mean, you're a kid. You don't want to leave your friends. And we were living in a twin in Norristown, and my 2 best friends were on the same street. So one lived 2 houses up, one lived 4 houses down. And you don't want to leave all your friends and what you're used to in your school and start over. And I was so mad. I remember crying and not wanting to move and leave. And I mean, as I got older, it was nice to have that, to be able to have the parties at our house.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had that, then they showed you that basement, and you went, this might work out. This might could do something for me.
It did work out. Like I said, we had the parties, we had people over all the time, and it was nice to be able to, go on vacation. And we did like a full trip, like up the coast to Maine and back. And we did all the Hall of Fames we did the football and baseball and hockey Hall of Fame. So we did those. So it was like things we probably wouldn't have been able to do if we didn't have the money. we definitely wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
But having it was a nice, my father's like, I want to take you guys on vacations. I want to do things. So this is what we're going to use the money to do and to pay for the house.
Was that a change for you coming from like Norristown and then moving to Bluebell and having security financially?
At the time, I don't think I thought of anything like that. It was more like, all right, well, at least we're in a neighborhood with kids. There's other, there's kids in the neighborhood, a lot of them, which was good. But it was the sense of, having to leave what and what you've grown up with. And you're like, this was my house. This is my home. I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And then you go, and then it took me, I don't know. I want to say it probably took me a while to get accustomed to moving and being in a new school and making new friends, and then trying to keep your old friends, but you don't see them every day. And, yes, it's only a couple miles, but still it feels like forever. And then trying to plan play dates and things like that with your friends. And you lose touch. And honestly, I don't talk to any of them either. So crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, are you, I assume the answer is yes. You're open to like talking to, like striking up relationships again. Like there was no reason, right? It was just kind of life.
No, it was just kind of like we all went our own different ways, and we all kind of, at least for me, fell out of touch, and it happens.
But you're still tight with like sports authority people, or is that?
Yeah, for the most part, during COVID, obviously it's hard to meet up with people, but like we'll text. We had, like I said, we had the wedding and sports authority was there. My close group of friends that I was friends with, they were there. My baby shower. So, we still see each other when we can. And if we can't, we'll text here and there. And then it's like, when you see them, you just catch up like you've never been apart.
Yeah.
Which is good. Those are the friendships that, you can always have. And that whether you go a couple weeks, a couple months, 2 years sometimes with seeing each other, you can just catch up where you left off, and it's not awkward and weird and you don't know what to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You can just pick right up where you left off.
This is it.
I can't find it. I have this one. And you know what? This is what this should be called for this year. Not surviving in a chaotic world then.
Yeah, what happened in 2000?
I have no idea.
What could have been chaotic? Living La Vida Loca, when Ricky Martin dropped, it was fire and the world was chaotic for sure.
Let me look. There's stuff going. Hold on.
That is the ugliest looking yearbook. I would hate it. What is that? Green? Midnight green?
Yeah, it's green.
I'm colorblind.
It's green. You are?
Yeah, I can't see shades. So
really?
First thought was like, why did they give you a brown yearbook?
It's green.
But in my head, I go, it's not brown, dude. It's
green. Well, JFK Jr. and Carolyn died on their plane crash.
Yeah.
Clinton announced the removal of the bald eagle. Let's see what else. Yeah. There's a whole thing in here for all things that happened in
2001 or 2000.
Yeah. So weird looking at this. Chokers were the new thing.
Oh yeah, chokers were big.
Sega.
Dreamcast.
It says video game fans snap a record of 15,000 copies of Sega's Dreamcast.
Yeah.
In 24 hours.
Let's see here. Let's find your picture.
Oh my god, I look the same.
Actually, I
not as many bags under my eyes.
You mean back then or now?
Now. No, then. I didn't have bags under my eyes then.
Field hockey.
9
through 12.
Yep.
Key club 10 through 12. Lacrosse 9.
Yeah, 9.
And students against drunk driving, which a lot of your co-athletes were involved in. I feel like.
Probably.
How does one get into that?
I have no idea. I didn't even know I was in that. Again, mom brain. I knew I was in Key Club.
Hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that from? Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, isn't it?
I've only seen it a few times. It's a great movie, but I don't know quotes from it other than Brooks was here.
I think that's what it's from.
All right. To my family, thanks for always believing in me. My friends, Jamie, Kelly, Rosen, Kelly, Brooke, Ryan,
Carol. He was here below us.
Ryan Carroll, really? With the cauliflower ear. Interesting. Yeah, wrestler. I liked Ryan. We had chorus together. What was your connection with Ryan?
We were friends. I used to drive him back and forth to school. Yeah, we just became friends.
Oh man, I was a big fan of his. He was a nice guy. Malik Carr. Nicole Westifer.
Yeah.
A few people have mentioned her, and I just don't know her by face, but like Kelly has talked about her, and a few people have. I got to get to know, I guess. I'm going to friend her on Facebook. I love you all. Everyone, I love you all. Good luck, class of 2001. GCF always.
Good, clean fun always.
Oh, what is that? Is that like a...
Oh, no. You know what? It wasn't Nicole Westifer. It was Nicole Bales. She was the year below us, too.
Okay.
Good, clean fun was just something we always, like, it was actually like a Sports Authority thing that kind of transferred over to, like, the friends in high school. And we just said good, clean fun because we were never, like, drinkers. We were never into drugs and smoking pot. Like, we were just, we had fun without all of it.
That's cool. I said that I envisioned you with like the crinkled, like the.
There it is. There it is. I think you guys still look the same.
I do. I think so. Yeah, absolutely. You look pretty.
I don't think I've changed too much.
No, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, as far like if I were to guess your age, I could still think that you, especially like when you talk about you're not like a makeup person. Like you look like you're in your 20s still.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, which
I think we both look pretty young. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I'm hiding a lot of it here.
No, you're fine. Stop it.
Listen, my goal, Pam, is that like by the time I'm in my mid 40s, I look the same as I did when I was in my early 30s. And
I think you will. I think you'll be fine.
That's all I want is that people go, he's always looked like he was in his like early 40s.
Yeah, I think you're fine. You'll be fine. You'll still look like you're in your early 30s and your 40s. We haven't aged. We've aged very well, I'll say.
Yeah, and some days I think so.
Well, this morning I did not look.
Like I said, this was like a huge thing. And when I started this podcast, one of the things that I wanted to do was be able to honor people that had passed. And obviously, like my direct connection to Ray influenced that. But
of course.
It wasn't until I looked at the calendar and I just went, oh my gosh, like I should talk about this because it's 20 years. And so
I'm glad you did.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to just do it with me so quickly,
absolutely.
Hitting you up just like last week and that you were willing to do it. Because it's not often that I actually talk to people who knew Ray as well as you knew Ray.
Yep.
And had such a special connection. And so it's rare to be able to talk about Ray and learn something new and to kind of listen and, take all those aspects in. And I haven't heard really that side of Ray since Ray would tell me about it.
It's so crazy, but I love it. I love that we have that connection and we can still keep him, in our hearts. I wish he was here, but at the same time, I see shooting stars and I say, there he is. He's here.
Now, when I see shooting stars, I'm going to think
that's what you're going to think about.
I'm going to think about you seeing that. And that's what you're going to think,
Yep. Always. Every time I see one, I'm like, there's Ray. Yep. Always.